When he says it, he means it, and you don't get to bend it and twist it to what you want. To reach the lost Israelites, the message has to go to everybody, and then the whomsoever wills will come. The ones who he draws will come. By the way, knowledge meaning what? Having a relationship with the truth. Oh, you learned, and you got tons of information, but have you come into a relationship with truth? That was funny. Who said it? Trisha? That was funny. Good job. We're ready? We're on? Are you guys actually watching me now? All right. Chag Sameach. Awesome. Today is Sefirat HaOmer Day 50. And so today, Shavuot has fully come. All right. Okay, so here we are for Shavuot. We're going to do some interesting different things today, but we are going to start off as we usually do with the sounding of the shofar and with praise. And so we'll go ahead and start with that. If you'll all rise for the sounding of the shofar. Amen. Amen. So while you guys dance, I'm going to go pass out. All right, let's sing praises to our King.
Glad when they said to me, come to the house of Yahweh.
Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord.
Arise and shine. Arise and shine. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. come unto thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see, they gather themselves all together. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. And the sons of those who afflicted thee, and all who have despised you will bow down. Then they shall call you the city of the Lord, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. Oh, arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee.
Praise you, Lord, you're the rock of my salvation. You I praise from shore to shore in all your creation. Let it ring from mountain tops, let my voice proclaim the tender mercies of my Lord. Yeshua is his name. Messiah of Israel is he, restorer of our nation. The hope of David now we see, bringing us salvation. Root of Jesse, Lion of Judah, Judge of Israel. Now we praise you for your joy and love that never fails.
Amen, amen. Father, we come before you, and we are just so excited to be in your presence. Father, knowing that these are those Mikra Kodashim, the assemblies that you've commanded us to have, where we can meet with you and be with you. The 3 times a year, the big ones, the Shalosh Regalim, Chag HaMatzot, today Shavuot, and of course then Sukkot. And so, Father, we're just so blessed to have a double Sabbath this weekend, to be able to be together for 2 days in a row, spending all of our time with you and with each other, and what a true blessing it is. So, Father, we thank you. We sing, we dance, we make a joyful noise, all to express the overflow of joy and love for you that's in our hearts. We ask now that your presence would be here, guiding and leading all things, so that all things would be done to your glory and to your honor. So, Father, we thank you, praise you, giving you all glory and honor. In the name above all names, Yeshua Messiah. Amen. 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 You may be seated. All right. Chag Sameach. I don't like the way that's set up. Let's change that a little bit. Okay. So this is the time, as we have always had in tradition, where we would take up prayer and praise. And of course, I'm not expecting too much difference since yesterday. So we should have a fairly quick time through this. But if there's anything that's happened since yesterday that's of an urgent nature that we need to be sharing, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Nate will bring around the mic, or we'll take it on the live stream. So let's go ahead and get those few that we need to today. We'll begin with Sarah Beth.
Just wanted to ask prayer for the Bennetts. The girls are sick, and Heidi is really missing us. I'm sure they all are.
Okay, we certainly can pray for the Bennett family, who is home dealing with some things on the health side. Anybody else? Shira?
Praise Yah, this has been the best Omer count I've ever had. And because it's been a community effort. You know, on Marco Polo, on Facebook, we're always reminding each other. We're listening to meditations on it, and it's this now. Shavuot is here, and I'm going to be sad. No more armor count until next year. But please keep in prayer Paul and Sherry Keeley. Paul lost his dad suddenly last week, and they did go out to Maryland. I don't know any details, but I do have a sympathy card for them. If any of you have not signed it, I will keep it with me and then put it over on the table. Thanks.
Amen. Certainly we can do that. Okay, who's next? And our hearts and condolences do go out to the Keeleys and all those who were affected by that loss.
I pray that my mom and Caitlin, because my sister isn't going to my mom's house anymore because of what she's doing. And I just pray that Yahweh will open her eyes.
Amen. Amen. Okay, bringing it around here. Okay, Tamara.
Hi, Sameach. I have so many things to be grateful for. First, we have my oldest daughter, Kaylin, is here, so now I have all 4 of my girls here, and I'm so grateful. The second thing is I'm so grateful. Today is Olivia's birthday, and that Yah has blessed us 13 years with her, and those of you that know our personal story know that the entrance of her life was spared by Yah, and the fact that she is walking, breathing, and cognitive above her level is a testament to that. So I'm just thankful.
Amen. Amen. Anybody else? Okay, live stream.
Okay, from MTOI Lakeview, prayer for Kathy, Carrie, Karen, and Amy, who are not feeling well today. And from Aaron Murray, lots of pain, asking for relief from Abba. From Rick Berry, continued prayer for Kevin and Linda Schutt, and for Aaron Murray. And that, besides us, quite a few unspoken, and that's it.
Okay, so I want to just throw in there on behalf of Aaron Murray. Aaron's part of the men's Marco Polo group, and we have all been standing with him in prayer because of this thing that causes him so much pain. He's been in and out of the hospital almost weekly. And we're going to pray that Abba will either restore it completely and heal it, or at least finally show the doctors what needs to be done so that it finally can be resolved, because this is extremely painful, this thing that he's dealing with. I'm not necessarily familiar with all the details, but I know that he's in a lot of pain when he goes through these things, and that the discernment, the wisdom, the understanding would be given to anybody and everybody involved that could help him to finally get relief from this pain and be restored so that he can walk this walk without the constant disturbance and ending up in the hospital, which seems to happen a lot on the weekends. And then, then he can't be with his family on Shabbat. He can't, and he's just spending all that time, and it's very hard. So we do stand with you, Aaron, in prayer for relief finally to be brought so that you can be restored in your health and restored with your family to enjoy your walking out of the commandments. Okay. I think that's going to cover it for all the things. We covered most of the rest of it yesterday. We're going to add to this that we do want to pray for traveling mercies for everybody here that's going to be traveling after Shavuot is over and leaving to go back. And also pray for our air conditioning system, which we now did get fixed. We did do a little jump on it. Thank you, Dan, for doing that. So it should at least be working for today. Okay, now bear in mind that means it may get very cold as we pulled it down, and then we're going to have to swing it back up. But it is going to be working a little better here in a few minutes. All right. Father, we come before you. We want to appreciate who you are, that you are the King, you are the Creator. You have brought all things into existence, and all things are subject to your authority and your will. And so, Father, that includes us, and we appreciate very much that you've shared with us your will so that we can be in compliance with it. And so, Father, we are just so overjoyed with so many things in our lives that you do every day and all the time to remind us that you're there, that you care, that you're aware of what we're going through. And so we thank you, we praise you, giving you all glory. Father, we also ask that you would be with us in all the things that have been requested. Many were not spoken that still were requested in the hearts of the people who are here and who are on the live stream. And so, Father, we know that you hear and answer prayer. We come knowing and fully trusting and believing that you hear and answer all prayer, but that your answer may not be exactly how we see it, but we trust that your answer is always the right answer. So, Father, we thank you, we praise you, we appreciate you, giving you all glory and honor in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen. 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 Okay, if you'll all rise for the liturgy, Tawid will come up and lead us. It'll be pretty much the same except no Vishamru.
Okay. Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Yahweh HaMevorach. Baruch Yahweh HaMevorach leolam vaed. Bless Yahweh, who is blessed. Blessed be Yahweh, who is blessed forever and ever. Amen. Matzovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, thy tabernacles, Yisrael. Ve'ani berov chazdecha avo vetecha eshtachave el heichal kodshecha be'yiratecha. And in thy great compassion. I will come into your house. There I will bow. There I will fear thy holiness, O Yah, O Yah. Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Waed. Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. Ve'ahavta, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates. Altogether, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen. Mi chamocha be'elim Yahweh, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot ose fele, ose fele. Who is like you, Yahweh, among the gods? Who is like you, mighty in holiness? You are awesome in praise, doing wonders, Yahweh, doing wonders, Yahweh. And now it is time for the children.
Okay, we're going to bring the chuppah out, and we'll get the children under the chuppah. I don't know yet. All right, let's go ahead and get the children under the chuppah. Okay, for the cameras, I'm going to do the blessing. All right, do we have everybody under? Not quite. Got the littlest one coming in. There we go. All right. Then extend your hearts and hands towards these children. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, King. Father, we come before you and we separate out these children, bring them under the chuppah, a symbol of covering that, Father, that they would recognize that they are covered all the days of their lives by you, provided that they stay in covenant. And that, Father, that you would help them to understand the relationship that you desire with them. And that, Father, that we as their parents and the community, that we would raise them in such a manner as they would understand the proper relationship to have with you and with each other. And that, Father, that they would grow to become strong men and women of Israel and lights to the community and to the world as they walk in your ways, showing and demonstrating what it looks like to be transformed and conformed into the image of Yeshua, your Son. So, Father, we separate out these children, asking a blessing upon them, that you would care for them, be with them, and that they would know that they know that they know that you are always there. So, Father, we thank you, we praise you, giving you all glory and honor, as we ask these things in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen. 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 All right, children, you may be seated. We're not dismissing you today. All of you may be seated. All right. Again, a reminder, if you have a phone, you may want to go ahead and turn that off, put it on silent, etc. Okay, so we usually at this time do Hama'aseh v'hatruma, the tithe and the offerings. But we also want to remind everyone that today is one of the 3 times a year, as Deuteronomy 16:16 tells us. It says, 3 times a year all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he chooses, at the Chag HaMatzot, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Chag HaShavuot, the Feast of Weeks, and Chag HaSukkot, or Feast of Booths, Feast of Tabernacles. So this is Shavuot, one of the 3 times you are not to appear empty-handed. So just a reminder, we do have a box in the back of the room. For those on live stream, we do have the donation buttons on the website. Of course, we also have an address you can mail to on our website. Okay, so it says 3 times a year. Now it says, but each one with a gift in his hand, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you. So you're actually supposed to evaluate. See, he's judging you, but you get to evaluate him. Not judge him, but evaluate and say, you know what? Am I paying enough attention to what he's doing? Not that you're evaluating whether he's done a good job of blessing you, but have you been paying attention to the blessings? He's been blessing you. And if he hasn't, that's on you, not him. Because maybe you're not doing the things you need to do to receive blessing. But are you paying attention to them? So part of the 3 times a year is for you to pause and to recognize his blessings that he pours out in your life. And then you're to then give an appropriate offering based on that. Okay, so I just want to make sure we've explained that, so that's in here. Now, the purpose of tithing, as we understand it, as well as these things here, is for us to appreciate his abundant blessings, and in tithing's case, also to always put Yahweh first. And one of the ways we do that with the feast is that we should always know when the next one is coming. They should never sneak up on us and surprise us. I know some of you have made the mistake of, well, I shouldn't say the mistake, you've made the effort to say to somebody in the family, I can't go to that graduation / wedding / whatever on Saturday, only to forget as they moved it over to Sunday, they moved it on to Shavuot. Or they moved it on to another feast day that happened to fall on a Sunday that year. You need to know when those dates are so you don't, because after the family member gives in, does what you want, moves the event over, and then you say, I made a mistake. I still can't come. That doesn't look good. We need to become what I call Chag-centric. Okay, the Chagim, the Moedim, the feasts, you need to know and have a sense of, look, Shira said during the prayer time something about the idea of not being able to count the Omer, but you should be counting, in a sense, the time knowing when the next one is, knowing when the feasts are coming. We do have them posted on our website, as you know. I know you pay attention to things like when we say when the next event is, like the picnic and the mikvah. And actually that, some of you don't pay attention. You call me up going, when's that? But we need to be paying attention. We have to get our mind focused on events and times so that we can be excited and prepared for them as they come up. Amen? Amen. So this is one of those 3 times a year. Some of you might be thinking, oh, I forgot about that. I wasn't ready. Well, 3 times a year. Now, we're not a ministry that's going to be smacking you in the face with everything to do with offerings and money and everything on a regular basis like some do. But we are going to remind you that that is something that we have to remind you of. I mean, you have to remember that's one of those obligations you have. There's tithing and then there's offerings. That's why every week we talk about hama'aseh ve'hatruma, the tithes and the offerings. Okay? Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who commanded and made promises to us concerning the tithe and the offerings. May you open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that cannot be contained as we obediently walk in these mitzvot, in these commandments. Amen. Amen. Okay. Let me go through some announcements real quickly, and then I'll explain what we're going to do today a little differently. Excuse me. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the announcements are the same as yesterday, but we'll just say them again real quickly just to remind everybody of what's going on. The only difference being that yesterday we reminded everybody that we're doing this today. Okay, so we have our Tuesday study every Tuesday night. This time will be coming up on the 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Everybody is welcome. You can invite friends and family members. It's open to the general public. We are considering doing them on YouTube and streaming them from here. How many of you that are local here would come for Tuesday night study here? Okay, that's a good number. So let's see what we could do to plan to do some of those. And we might even get it done by this Tuesday. We'll have to talk about it after services here. We know we got a tremendous response from those on the live stream that really appreciated it and thought that it was better, whatever the word is, that they liked it and enjoyed it and were benefited from it better than with the Adobe Connect. So let's see if we can do that, because I'm here anyway, and I'm streaming from here anyway, so it doesn't change anything for me. But for those of you that want to come here, now we're not going to do a fellowship meal every Tuesday. You'll just go eat at home and show up here for 8 o'clock study, okay? But what we're going to need from the local congregation is that you guys are the ones who are going to sit in the chairs and step up and read. Okay, because we're going to try to work something out so we could do that with the people on the outside, but that may take a little while to get the technology set to do that. So in the meantime, I still will need you guys to step up and do the readings, okay? All right. All right, so, of course, I didn't mention about welcoming the guests. We do have guests here today, although most of the guests here today were here yesterday. Some weren't, but most of them were. But if you weren't, welcome. We do want to make sure we're, as children of Abraham, we are making you feel welcome and being good hosts and showing hospitality. Okay, so also on the calendar, I want to just mention for the leadership that might be online right now that we are doing our leadership meetings on the 23rd. Okay, so that's on Sunday the 23rd at the usual times. And then, of course, our picnic and mikvah on July the 14th, which is a Sunday. And if you want to participate, you can contact us. It's going to be at Chester Frost Park, which is in Hickson on Harrison Bay. And so it's a public park, and it'll be public. So it means the public will be there swimming, but we seem to do okay with that. We get people there early. We secure our spot for the picnic tables, etc. Bring your own chairs and stuff. That will be very helpful. You may also, it's been really hot the last, how many years we've been doing this. You might want to bring either an umbrella type thing with your chair or some sort of a small shelter. We've had people bring sort of little tarp tent things with no walls or whatever, just to have some shade, because it is hot, okay? If you're bringing food or things like that, you might want to bring something to keep it in that also, so it doesn't just melt in the heat, because it does definitely get really hot in July here in Tennessee, okay? Lots of humidity and lots of heat. All right, if you want to participate in the mikvah, okay, we do have the mikvah declarations. I will be printing them out and putting them here. They are on our website. I got to figure out where they are now. If we got to make sure to tell Shelly to put it on the Sukkot page. The Sukkot page doesn't have it yet. We don't have stuff on the Sukkot page yet with the registration form, but at least we could put the mikvah declarations on there since we usually do one at Sukkot. But if you go to the search engine on the top of our website page, the little search bar on the MTY page, and type in mikvah declarations, it'll pull up a Word doc that you can print out with them on there, okay? So you can search our site and find it if you don't remember where to find it, okay? Because I did that for somebody the other day, and it works. You can just search for it. It's there. All right, that should cover it for the announcements. Again, we had a fabulous Shabbat yesterday. Very much enjoyed that with all of you. Some of you made it all the way through the Ten Commandments movie last night. You forget how long that thing is. Wow. At the end, some of you looked like you journeyed from Egypt to Sinai. You're just dragging yourselves. Like, okay, we're here. That was a long movie. Now, of course, I didn't get to see the movie. I was counseling during that time, so there was a lot of counseling going on as well. Okay. I think that'll do it for the announcements. Okay, so let me talk about what I'd like to do today. I'm going to see if we can, how much time we can squeeze in here. We didn't do much for announcements. We didn't do much for prayer time, so we have lots of time. So let's just see how this plays out. Okay? So, what I'd like to do, a little different, and we've done this in previous Shavuots, and of course, some of you may remember, some of you not, but we're going to try and do this a little differently. That's why the children are in here, because we like the children to participate. But let's begin by going to Leviticus chapter 23. And I want to just read us a little bit here. Okay, in Leviticus chapter 23, beginning in verse 10, speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when you come into the land which I give you, and shall reap its harvest, then you shall bring a sheaf of the firstfruits of your harvest to the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh for your acceptance. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest waves it. Okay, so we're talking about today we are observing in memorial. We're practicing the keeping of Shavuot in fullness. But to really do that, we would need these guys known as the priests and a temple and being in the land. Excuse me. So we are practicing, we're rehearsing. He says, and on that day, when you wave the sheaf, you prepare a male lamb, a year old, a perfect one, as a burnt offering to Yahweh, and its grain offering, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, mixed with oil, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a sweet fragrance, and its drink offering, 1/4 of a hin of wine. And you do not eat bread or roasted grain or fresh grain until the same day that you have brought an offering to your Elohim, a law forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, you shall count the Omer. You're going to count for yourselves 7 completed Sabbaths, Sheva Shabbatot. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 days. Then you shall bring a new grain offering to Yahweh. Bring from your dwellings from our wave offering 2 loaves of bread, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour they are, baked with leaven, first fruits to Yahweh, and besides the bread you shall bring 7 lambs, a year old, perfect ones, and a young bull, and 2 rams, and they are burnt offering to Yahweh with the grain offering and their drink offerings, an offering made by fire for a sweet fragrance to Yahweh. And you shall offer 1 male goat as a sin offering, 2 male lambs a year old as a peace offering, and the priest shall wave them besides the bread of the first fruits as a wave offering before Yahweh. Besides the 2 lambs, they are set apart to Yahweh for the priest. And on this same day you shall proclaim a Mikra Kodesh, a set-apart gathering for yourselves. You do no servile work on it, a law forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. Okay, so this is important that we understand that we are doing these things. And then there's one more verse that is added. It's sort of like sounds complete. He says, and when you reap the harvest of your land, do not completely reap the corners of your field when you reap, and do not gather any gleaning from your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So this feast is a harvest feast, but it's also to remind you that in your abundance others may not have, and you are to take care of them by allowing them and providing for them to be able to glean the corners of the field. And that's why, by tradition, the Jewish community reads the book of Ruth today, because what did Ruth get to do? Glean the corners of the fields, of Boaz's fields, right? And so this is important that we understand that there's something, in this that hints towards, and that's why they read the book of Ruth, because it deals with a Shavuot harvest, okay? And there's connections there. And so we may not do that today, but I just want us to start off with understanding the Shavuot instruction. So all of you need to did you guys bring your first fruits? You didn't bring it to come up and hand that to me? No. Okay. We did that one time at a place, another congregation, where people literally brought from their gardens and brought first fruits to the synagogue, to the shul to give to. It was quite an interesting thing to watch. All right, so what we're not going to do today is we're not going to go into a whole discussion about how we count the Omer and when it should start counting. We have all of that in other teachings. But understand that this is the event that they're referring to called Shavuot, at the end of the 50-day count. And it's about harvest. It's about abundance. And then we have two significant events, well, three if you want to count the book of Ruth, happening on Shavuot for sure. One of them is the giving of what? The Torah. Okay, the 10 Commandments are given on Shavuot. Okay, and we're going to connect those dots today as we've done in other teachings, but we're going to do it by reading quite a bit of Scripture. And also, Acts chapter 2. The launching of the assembly after Yeshua was dead and resurrected, and they all came together of one accord on Shavuot, and there was a pouring forth of the Ruach, and there was a tremendous little sermon given by Akifa, by Peter. Okay? And so we're going to try to connect some of those dots today, and I want us to do this. I want us to be immersed. Okay, and I don't mean this in any sort of Christian way or any kind of esoteric way. I want us to just immerse ourselves and really focus and listen and receive as we read verses you're very familiar with as we read it. And allow it to penetrate you and allow it to stir you and see what kind of thoughts come. You may want to write some notes down because we're going to do this like we do a Torah study. We may have time afterwards to discuss how you felt and how things affected you as we read. But I think it's going to be really cool, and we need to get a couple of the chairs up here for people to sit to read. So let's go ahead and do that. We can get some of the metal folding chairs if we have extras there, unless you see 5 empty chairs that we can just easily grab. Or just grab 5 folding chairs from out of there. There's 2 of them right there. Okay, and so I wanted to do this. I want to read from, excuse me. I want us to read from Exodus 19, and I want us to read from Acts 2, but I think because I want the children to be involved, I want to have them read the 22 stanzas of Psalm 119. Because if we're talking about Torah and the love of Yahweh and understanding submission and appreciating what Yahweh's doing, I don't think we can go anywhere better than Psalm 119. Now, I'd like the parents to self-edit. Please don't be embarrassed. If your children are not adept readers for their own protection of their pride, etc., not having them come up and embarrass themselves. Please don't let your children come up if you know they can't read. They're all going to want to read or not, but hopefully they'll get the ones up here who can read reasonably, effectively. They'll be nervous, so I'm not expecting perfection, but at least we can start off with ones who can read. And I really don't care how old they are as long as they can read, fairly well, okay? Because I think we'll all be blessed to hear the children read. Amen? Amen. Okay. And I think we can do this, and we can find an interesting way. I think we can do this. Okay. Let's, though, begin. We're going to get to the children in a minute. I want us to frame this with reading Exodus 19 first. So I need 4 readers, 4 adults to come on up. And you can bring your scriptures. I've got the large one up here. But I'm going to have 4 readers come up and read us Exodus 19. And some of chapter 20 as we lead into the giving of the commandments. All right. Excellent. Okay, and you can read from yours, but I'm going to have it here on the large print up on the lectern here. Okay, there's only going to be 4 for this one, Nate, but you could be first for the next one because we do have another reading for the adults, so just hang out there. You're fine. Okay, Exodus 19, and we'll begin with Owen. Okay, and I'm going to just make sure I know which ones I'm having you read. Okay, you're going to read the first 13 verses, but we're going to also ask the blessing on you. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Owen, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessings and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Owen's going to read the first 13 verses of Exodus 19. We need to get you a microphone. There you go.
In the 3rd new moon, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mizraim, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. For they set out from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, to declare to the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Mitzrayites, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a reign of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words which you are to speak to the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all these words which Yahweh commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahweh has spoken we shall do. So Moshe brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, See, I am coming to you in the thick cloud, so the people hear when I speak with you and believe you forever. And Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments, and shall be prepared by the third day. For on the third day Yahweh shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, Take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain and touch the border of it. Whatever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow, whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the Yobel sounds long, let them come near the mountain.
Amen. Amen. All right. Thank you, Owen. Okay, next up, Manny. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Manny, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us from verse 14 to the end of the chapter.
And Moshe came down from the mountain to the people and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. And he said to the people, Be prepared by the third day. Do not come near a wife. And it came to be on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the voice of a shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, all of it, because Yahweh descended upon it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when the voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. And Yahweh came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Yahweh called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And Yahweh said, Moshe, go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto Yahweh to see how many of them fall. And the priests who came near Yahweh set themselves apart too, lest Yahweh break out against them. And Moshe said to Yahweh, The people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, Make a border around the mountain and set it apart. And Yahweh said to him, Come, go down and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Yahweh, lest he break out against them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Manny. All right, Rebbitz and Julie. I forgot the verse numbers I'm doing here. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and wow. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, my wife makes me all choked up. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rebbitz and Julie, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, take us now to chapter 20 and read the first 11 verses.
And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of slavery. You have no other mighty ones against my face. You do not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of that which is in the heavens above, or which is in the earth beneath, or which is in the waters under the earth. You do not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the crookedness of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving commitment to thousands, to those who love me and guard my commands. You do not bring the name of Yahweh your Elohim to naught, for Yahweh does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught. Remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart.
Amen. Amen. All right, Tamara. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Tamara, who has come out to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from verse 12 to verse 21.
Okay. Respect your father and your mother, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil, which Yahweh your Elohim has given you. You do not murder. You do not commit adultery. You do not steal. You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. You do not covet your neighbor's house. You do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. And all the people saw the thunders and the lightning flashes, and the voice of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. And the people saw it, and they trembled and stood at a distance, and said to Moshe, You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die. Then Moshe said to the people, Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you, in order that his fear be before you, so that you do not sin. And so the people stood at a distance, but Moshe drew near in thick darkness where Elohim was.
Amen. Amen. Perfect. All right. So, let me get this over here. Just get that out of the way for a second. All right. So awesome. So imagine if you were there at Sinai. First thing I want to ask all of you is the same question that was asked, and we respond with the words, all that Yahweh has spoken we shall do. Okay, so Yahweh is offering you a covenant. He's offering to take care of all your needs, and you respond, all that Yahweh has said we shall do. Amen. Okay, because that's the covenant right there. That's the moment. But notice that once it actually got started, they actually saw heard the voice, felt the voice, heard the rumbling, saw the lightnings. They're like, whoa, hold on. Moses, you speak to us. We don't want to hear from him directly. It's kind of funny how nowadays everybody's claiming that they don't want to hear from man and they want to hear from him only directly. Because hearing from him directly the way they're doing it means they get to interpret it any way they want. See, here they literally all were hearing from him at the same time without any doubt or confusion as to what he said. Of course, they could always claim they didn't understand Moses or that Moses maybe didn't understand Yahweh or whatever. So you get that plausible deniability sort of level and factor in there. And so that's why we're going to stop right there. So after that, then Moses starts giving them the instructions, as the middleman through which Yahweh speaks to them. And so here we were. Now, let's take that mindset and understand this is what was going on and picture again, they're at Sinai. There's lightnings, there's rumblings, there's thunders, there's the voice of the shofar. And now we're going to go to Acts chapter 2. And I have 4 readers for that too. Okay. So let's go to Acts chapter 2. And we'll begin with Nate. All right, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Nate, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Nate's going to take us now from verse 1 through 13.
And when the day of the festival of Shavuot had come, they were all with one mind in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from the heaven, as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared to them divided tongues as of fire, and settled on each one of them. And they were all filled with the set-apart Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them to speak. Now in Jerusalem there were dwelling in Yehudim, dedicated men from every nation under the heaven. And when this sound came to be, the crowd came together and were confused, because everyone heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying to each other, "Look, are not all these who speak Galileans? And how do we hear, each one in our own language, in which we were born? Parthians and Medes and Elamites, and those dwelling in Aram Naharaim, both Yehuda and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, both Phrygia and Pamphylia, Mitzrayim, and the parts of Libya around Cyrene, visitors from Rome, both Yehudim and converts, Cretans and Arabs. We hear them speaking in our own tongues the great deeds of Elohim." And they were all amazed and were puzzled, saying to each other, "What does this mean?" And others mocking said, "They have been filled with sweet wine."
Amen. Okay, thank you. Okay, Dawid. Okay, so I've got you and then two more. Okay, we're good. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Dawid, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, verse 14 to 24.
But Kepha, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said to them, "Men of Yehuda, and all those dwelling in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen closely to my words. For these men are not drunk as you imagine, since it is only the 3rd hour of the day. But this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall be in the last days, says Elohim, that I shall pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And also on my male servants and on my female servants I shall pour out my spirit in those days, and they shall prophesy. And I shall show wonders in the heaven above and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and splendid day of Yahweh. And it shall be that every one who calls on the name of Yahweh shall be saved. Men of Israel, hear these words. Yeshua of Nazareth, a man of Elohim, having been appointed out to you by mighty works and wonders and signs which Elohim did through him in your midst, as you yourselves also know, this one, given up by the set purpose and foreknowledge of Elohim, you have impaled and put to death through the hands of lawless men. Him, Elohim, raised up, having loosened the pangs of death, because it was impossible that he could be held in its grip.
Amen. Amen. Olivier? He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Olivier, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us now from verse 25 to 36.
For David says concerning him, I saw Yahweh before me continually, because he is at my right hand, in order that I should not be shaken. For this reason my heart rejoiced, and my tongue was glad, and now my flesh shall also rest in expectation. Because you shall not leave my being in Sheol, nor shall you give your kind one to see corruption. You have made known to me the ways of life. you shall fill me with joy in your presence. Men and brothers, let me speak boldly to you of the ancestor David, that he died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. Being a prophet then, and knowing that Elohim had sworn with an oath to him, of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, to raise up the Messiah to sit in his throne. Foreseeing this, he spoke concerning the resurrection of the Messiah, that his being was neither left in Sheol, nor did his flesh see corruption. Elohim has raised up this Yeshua, of which we are all witnesses. Therefore, having been exalted to the right hand of Elohim, and having received from the Father the promise of the set-apart Spirit, he poured out this which you now see and hear. For David did not ascend into the heavens, but he himself said, Yahweh said to my master, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. Therefore, let all the house of Israel know for certain that Elohim has made this Yeshua, whom he impaled, both Master and Messiah.
Amen. 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 Okay, thank you, Olivier. Okay, next up we have Wayne. He'll be our last reader here. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Wayne, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Wayne, take us from verse 27 to the end of the chapter.
And having heard this, they were pierced to the heart, and said to Kepha and the rest of the emissaries, Men, brothers, what shall we do? And Kepha said to them, Repent, and let each one of you be immersed in the name of Yeshua Messiah for the forgiveness of sins, and you shall receive the gift of the set-apart Spirit. For the promise is to you and to your children, and to all who are far off, as many as Yahweh our Elohim shall call. And with many other words, he earnestly witnessed and urged them, saying, Be saved from this crooked generation. Then those indeed who gladly received his word were immersed. And on that day, and 3,000 beings were added to them. And they were continually steadfast in the teaching of the emissaries, and in the fellowship, and in the breaking of bread, and in the prayers. And fear came upon every being, and many wonders and signs were being done through the emissary. And all those who believed were together and had all in common, and sold their possessions and property, and divided them among all, as anyone might have needed. And day by day, continuing with one mind in a set-apart place, and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising Elohim and having favor with all the people. And the master added to the assembly those who were being saved day by day.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Wayne. Thank you to all the readers. Okay, so can you see some of the parallels of some of the things that were going on in Exodus? I mean, when we, especially at the beginning, when they're in the room and there's noise and there's wind and all these other things are happening, very much like at Sinai. And so this was meant to be, it says that there were Jews or Yehudim from everywhere here. Okay, this is not a celebration that the Gentiles were doing. The Gentiles had not been brought into the assembly at this point, and the Jews would have known the Tanakh and would have known these things are reminiscent of the Sinai event. It's a covenanting event. It's a launching. What was launched at Sinai? It was the birth of the nation of Israel coming out of Egypt, out of Mitzrayim. What was launched here in Acts chapter 2? Again, the launching or the birthing of the assembly of Israel coming out of Babylon, so to speak, coming out of the world, from amongst the nations, the beginning of that. So we see a lot of those parallels here. We could talk a lot more about these things when we complete it. I know there's lots of things we could talk about. I do want us to make sure that we are focusing on the key point here, which is that Kepha tells us the whole thing is about recognizing who Yeshua is and repenting and letting each one be immersed in the name of Yeshua for the forgiveness of sins. It has to do with also that this promise is to you and your children and those afar off. So this is about the restoration of all Israel. Because the verses about those who were far off are those that had been scattered, the northern tribes and even from the south that had been scattered. And the reason you all got to find out about this is not necessarily because your birth line is Israel of any sort, but because in the effort to get the message out to Israel that has been scattered everywhere, the whomsoever wills were called. You got to receive the message in the effort of getting the message out to Israel. And so through Israel, all are blessed. Through Abraham, all are blessed. And as you see, as that lineage goes down through. Okay, so that's really, really cool stuff. And now we're going to kind of take that, and we're going to go into Psalm 119. So let's bring some children up to read. Okay, where are my Gadol children? Come on, you guys can all read. If you can't, we have a problem. Okay, those seats are full. Well, let's wait till we get the next. As soon as you see an empty seat, you'll just jump on in it, okay? Well, let's fill up those seats. We'll jump in those seats as soon as we get a chance. Okay, now, I have an idea of how we're going to do this to make it a little bit easier for the children, okay? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Maybe we can get the camera on the seats, and what I'll do is I have the papers they could just read from, okay? And I'll make it a little bit easier. Will that work for the cameras? Okay? And that way we don't have to worry about them being short and behind the podium and that kind of thing, especially for the younger ones here. Okay? That's okay. You're the one that's from Katane, but you can go ahead and read first. Okay? All right. So we have all these readers. And so we're going to begin with Sierra. Okay, so Sierra, you're going to read this first section right here, this whole first section. There you go. Here, hold it right here. Right.
Blessed are the perfect in the way who walk in the Torah of Yahweh. Blessed are those who observe his witnesses, who seek him in all the heart. Yea, they shall do no unrighteousness, they shall walk in his ways. You have commanded us to guard your orders diligently. Oh, what that my way were established to guard your laws, then you would not be ashamed when I look into all your commands. I thank you with uprightness of heart. When I learn the right ruling of your righteousness, I guard your laws. Oh, do not leave me entirely.
All right, thank you. Okay, Sierra. You can come on down. I'll slide you on down. Excuse me. What's your name again?
Serenity.
All right, Serenity's going to read the next section. Okay, because these are broken up into 22 stanzas, 8 verses each. That's where you get your 176 stanzas from. Okay, so you can read this section right here.
How would a young man cleanse his path to guard it according to your word? I have sought you with all my heart. Let me not stray from your commands. I have treasured up your word in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Blessed are you, O Yahweh. Teach me your laws. With my lips I have recounted all the right rulings of your mouth. I have rejoiced in the way of your witnesses as over all riches. I meditate on on your orders and regard your ways. I delight myself in your laws. I do not forget your word.
Amen. All right, great job, Serenity. Okay, and what's your name? Chloe. Okay, Chloe's going to take the next section, so read these ones right here.
Do good to your servant, let me live, and I guard your word. Open my eyes that I might see wonders from your Torah. I am a sojourner in the earth. Do not hide your commands from me. My being is crushed with longing for your right rulings. At all times,
Where are you? Rebuked.
Rebuked the proud, cursed ones who are staying from your commands. Remove from the reproach and scorn, for I have observed your witness. Through princes.
Yep, princes.
Oh. Sat seeking against me. Your servant meditates on your laws. Your witnesses also are my delight, my
counselors.
Amen.
All right, good job. All right, Liam. Okay, go ahead and read this section right here, the middle one.
My being has been clinging to the dust. Receive my according to your word.
Slow down. There you go.
I recounted my ways, and you answered me, that I might meditate on your wonders.
Here, teach me your laws.
Teach me your laws. Make me understand the way of your orders, that I might meditate on your wonders. My being has wept from grief. Strengthen my according to your word. Remove from me the way of falsehood, and favor me with your Torah. I have chosen the way of truth. Your right rulings I have held level. I have clung to your witness, O Yahweh. Do not put me to shame. I have run away from your commands, for you enlarge my heart.
Amen. All right. What's your name again? Peyton. Okay. Shows you how much I need to spend more time working with the younger children. I don't know all their names. All right, so Peyton's going to now take us into verse 33 to 40. So you read down here. You can hold it. There you go. And read this section here.
Teach me, O Yahweh, the way of your laws, and I observe it to the end. Make me understand that I may observe your Torah and guard it with all my heart. Make me walk in the path of your commands, for I have delighted in it. Incline my heart to your witness and not to own gain. Turn away my eyes from looking at falsehood and revive me in your way. Establish your word to your servant, which leads to the fear of you. Turn away my reproach, which I dread, for your right rulings are good. See, I have longed for your orders. Revive me in your righteousness.
Amen. Thank you, Peyton. Very good job. All right, Gabriel. Okay, he's going to take us from verse 41 to 48, top section.
And let your kindness come to me, O Yahweh, your deliverance according to your word, so that I answer my reprover, so that I have trusted in your word. And do not take away my mouth the word of truth entirely, for I have waited for you your right rulings, that I may guard your Torah continually forever and ever, that I might walk in your broad place, for I have sought your orders, that I might speak of your witnesses before you sovereigns and not to be ashamed, that I might delight myself in your commands, which I have loved, that I might lift up my hands in your commands, which that I have loved, while I meditate on your laws.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Gabriel. What was your name again? Okay, Brianna's going to take us now from verse 49 to 56. Okay, the middle section.
Remember the word to your servant, on which you have caused me to wait. This is my comfort in my affliction, for your word has given me life. The proud have utterly scorned me. I did not turn aside from your Torah. I remember your right rulings of old, O Yahweh, and I comfort myself. Rage has seized me because of the wrong who forsake your Torah. Your laws have been my songs in the place of my sojournings. I have remembered your name in the night, O Yahweh, and I guard your Torah. This has become mine because I have observed your orders.
Okay, amen. All right. All right, Ashlyn. Okay, you're going to now take us in the bottom section here.
You are my portion, O Yahweh. I have promised to guard your words. I have sought your face with all my heart. Show me favor according to your word. I have taught upon my ways and turned my feet to your witness. I have hurried and did not delay to guard your commands. The cord of the wrong have surrounded me. Your Torah I have not forgotten. At midnight I rise to give thanks to you for your righteous right rulings. I am a companion of all who fear you and those guarding your orders. O Yahweh, your kindness has filled the earth. Teach me your laws.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Ashlyn. And you are Valentina. Okay, I thought I knew that. I was going to guess right there. All right, read the top section here, verse 65 to 72.
You have done good to your servant, O Yahweh, according to your word. Teach me good sense and knowledge, for I have trusted in your commands. Before I was afflicted, I myself was going astray, but now I have guarded your word. You are good and do good. Teach me your laws. The proud have forged a lie against me. With all my heart I observe your orders. Their heart has become like fat, without feeling. I have delighted in your Torah. It was good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your laws. The Torah of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces.
Amen. I am missing a few Gadol children that are not up here who should be up here. Don't make me call you out by name. Okay, Olivia is going to now read us the middle section here, 73 to 80.
Your hands have made me, informed me. Make me understand that I might learn your commands. Those who fear you see me and rejoice, for I have waited for your word. I know, O Yahweh, that your right rulings are righteous, and in trustworthiness you have afflicted me. Please let your kindness be for my comfort, according to your word to your servant. Let your compassions come to me, that I might live, for your Torah is my delight. Let the proud be put to shame, for with lies they perverted me, but I study your orders. Let those who fear you turn to me, and those who know your witnesses. Let my heart be perfect in your laws, so that I am not put to shame.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Katie. All right, Katie, you're going to read this last section right here.
For your deliverance, my being has pined away, for I have waited for your word. My eyes have pined away for your word, saying, when would it comfort me? For I have become like a wineskin in a smoke. Your laws I have not forgotten. How many are the days of your servant? When do you execute your right rulings on those who persecute me? The proud have dug pits for me, which is not according to your Torah. All your commands are trustworthy. They have persecuted me with lies. Help me. They also make an end of me on earth, but I do not forsake your orders. Revive me according to your kindness, that I might guard the witness of your mouth.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Katie. And you, what's your name again? Baylor. Okay, Baylor, you're now going to take us to, you can read the top one here, which is 89 to 96. You can read it over there, I guess.
Forever, O Yahweh, your word stands firm in the Shamayim. Your trustworthiness is to all generations. You established the earth, and it stands. According to your right rulings, they have stood to this day. For all your servants, if your Torah has not been my delight, I would have perished in my affliction. Let me never forget your orders. For by them you have given me high. I am yours, save me, for I have sought your orders. The wicked have waited for me to destroy me. I understand your witnesses. I have seen an end of all perfection. Her command is exceedingly broad.
Amen. Amen. That's it. Okay. Heidi. All right, you want to read out of yours? Okay, 97 to 104.
Oh, how I love your Torah. This is my study all day long. Your commands make me wiser than my enemies. For it is ever before me. I have more understanding than all my teachers. For your witnesses are my study. I understand more than the aged, for I have observed your orders. I have restrained my feet from every evil way, that I might guard your word. I have not turned aside from your right rulings, for you yourself have taught me how sweet to taste my taste has your word been, more than honey to my mouth. From your orders I get understanding, therefore I have hated every false way.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Heidi. Okay, Aislinn, you're going to read 105 to 112.
Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. I have sworn and I confirm to guard your righteous right rulings. I have been afflicted very much. O Yahweh, revive me according to your word. Please accept the voluntary offering of my mouth, O Yahweh, and teach me your right rulings. My life is in my hand continually, and your Torah I have not forgotten. The wrong have laid a snare for me, but I have not strayed from your orders. Your witness are my inheritance forever, for they are the joy of my heart. I have inclined my heart to do your laws forever to the end.
Amen. Thank you, Aislinn. All right, hold on to that. And what's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel. Okay, Daniel's going to read the top section here, which is verse 113 to 20. Read this one right here.
I have hated doubting
Doubting.
Doubting thoughts, but I've loved your Torah. You are my hiding place and my shield. I have waited for your word. Turn away from me, you evil doers.
Good.
For I observed the commands of my Elohim. Support me according to your word, that I might live. But put me not to shame because of my expectation. Sustain me that I might be saved and always look to your laws. You have made light of all those who stray from your laws, for falsehood is their deceit. You have made me kiss all the wrong of the earth like jewels. Therefore I have loved your witness. My flesh has trembled for fear of you, and I am in awe of all your right rulings.
Thank you, Daniel. Good job. Good job. And what's your name? All right, Stephen's going to take us now 121 to 128.
I have done right ruling in righteousness. Leave me not to my oppressors. Guarantee your servant's well-being. Let not the proud oppress me. My eyes have pined away for your deliverance and for the word of your righteousness. Do with your servant according to your kindness and teach me your laws. I am your servant. Make me understand, that I might know your witnesses. It is time for Yahweh to act, for they have broken your Torah. Therefore I have loved your commands more than gold, even fine gold. Therefore all your orders I count as right. I have hated every false way.
Amen. Good job. And I see that those who I don't need to shame have all finally walked up here and started to get to read, so that's good. So, okay. All right, Gabriel. Okay, 129 to the bottom here.
All right. Your witnesses are wonders, so my very observes them. The opening of your words gives light, giving understanding to the simple.
We want to see your face, so let's lower that down. There you go.
All right. I have opened my mouth and painted, for I have longed for your commands. Turn to me and show me favor according to your right ruling toward those who love your name. Establish my footsteps by your word, and let no wickedness have rule over me. Redeem me from the oppressions of man, that I might guard your orders. Make your face shine upon your servant, and teach me your laws. Streams of water have run down from my eyes, because they did not guard your Torah.
Amen. Gabriel, good job. All right, Raiden. Hold on to that. Okay. You want to read it from yours? Or you want to read it from here? Okay, top one right here.
Righteous are you, O Yahweh, and your right rulings are straight. You have commanded your witnesses in righteousness and truth exceedingly. My ardor has consumed me, for my adversaries have forgotten your words. Your word is tried exceedingly, and your servant has loved it. I am small and despised. I have not forgotten your orders. Your righteousness is righteousness forever, and your Torah is truth. Distress and anguish have found me. Your commands are my delight. The righteousness of your witness is forever. Make me understand that I might live.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Raiden. Okay, you are?
Christian.
Christian, okay. Christian is going to read from 145 to 152.
I have called with all
Hold it right up by your mouth.
I have called with all my heart. Answer me, O Yahweh. I have absorbed your laws. I have called upon you, save me, that I might guard your witness. I rise before dawn and cry for help. I have waited for your word. My eyes have gone before the night watches to study your word. Hear me, voice, according to your kindness, O Yahweh. Revive me according to your right ruling. Those who pursue mischief have drawn near. They have been far from your Torah. You are near, O Yahweh, and all your commands are truth. Of old I have known your witness, that you have founded them forever.
Amen. All right, thank you. Awesome. Next. Okay, Leyland. Okay, you're going to read the last section here.
See my affliction and deliver me, for I have forgotten your Torah. Plead my cause and redeem me. Revive me according to your word. Deliverance is far from the wrong ones, for they have not sought your laws. Your companions are many, O Yahweh. Revive me according to your right rulings. My
persecutors.
Thank you. Persecutors are adversaries are many. I have not turned aside from your witnesses. I saw traitors and was grieved, because they did not guard your word. See how I have loved your orders, O Yahweh. Revive me according to your kindness. The sum of your word is truth, and all your righteousness, right rulings are forever.
Amen. All right, thank you, Leyland. And you are?
Ben.
Ben.
Do I get to read the rest?
No. Okay, Ben's going to take us from 161 to 168.
All right. Rulers have persecuted me with the cause, but at your word my heart stood in awe. I rejoice at your word as one who finds great treasure. I have hated falsehood and loathe it. Your Torah I have loved. I have praised you 7 times a day because of your righteous right rulings. Great peace have these loving your Torah, and for them there is no stumbling block. Yahweh, I have waited for your deliverance, and I have done your commands. My being has guarded your witnesses, and I love them exceedingly. I have guarded your orders and your witnesses, for all my ways are before you.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Ben. All right. Unless one of your brothers that hasn't gone yet wants to read the last one. Eric, where are you? There we go. Get up here, Eric. Oh, wait, would you like to read the last one? Sure, well, come on down. All right, Eric, you're off the hook. What's your name again?
Tanis.
Tanis is going to read the last section. Okay, so you can read it from here if you'd like. A little bigger print.
Right here?
Yep, that whole section right there.
My cry comes before you, O Yahweh. Make me understand according to your word. Let my prayer come before you. Deliver me according to your word. My lips pour forth praise, for you teach me your laws. My tongue sings of your word, for all your commands are righteousness. Your hand is a help to me, for I have chosen your orders. I have longed for your deliverance, O Yahweh, and your Torah is my delight. My being lives, and it praises you, and your right rulings help me. I have strayed like a lost sheep. Seek your servant, for I have not forgotten your commands.
Amen. Thank you, Tanis, for finishing it up. All right. Fantastic job by all the readers. That's just awesome. Really appreciate that very, very much. Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is go ahead and see if we can open up the floor. We'll pass a microphone around. We'll get, Nate, you want to come up and grab the mic? We could probably even have two, one on either side of the room. Okay, Owen will come up and get the other one. So we got two mics there. We'll kind of go around. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to hear from you, your impressions of what it was like to hear that, to sit and listen to the word, especially out of the children. I know some of them read very quickly, but they were a little nervous and not used to reading in front of everybody. But they all did a great job, and so we really appreciate that very much. Even the ones I had to shame up here. No, everybody did a really good job. I really appreciate everybody coming up and reading and reading before everyone. There is a blessing in that. I really believe that. There's a tradition that believes that there's a blessing when you read the word of Yah before your brothers. Okay, we talk about that every time we have a feast and we do the readings at Passover and Unleavened Bread. We do it at Sukkot. And I've done it often during Shavuot. We've done Psalm 119 before. We've done the book of Ruth before. And we've read that as part of our service. But I think that it's really good to start opening the floor for discussion. Now, the discussion, again, were you moved by anything? Were you struck by anything? Was there anything that you wanted to comment or ask a question about? Let's see if we can avoid just rushing right to the tongue-speaking thing of Acts chapter 2. There was so much more happening, we don't have to rush right to there, okay? And besides, I've addressed that about 1,000 times, and I certainly can address it again today. But were you moved by the initial readings in Exodus 19, and what kind of things hit you or struck you? One thing in particular hit me that I don't think I've ever paid attention to. And see if anybody else noticed it, and if you don't, I'll point it out. But let's see if we can talk about Exodus 19 and Acts 2 from the connection between them and any impressions, and then we'll move on to Psalm 119. So we have hands going up. The first one is over here with Dawid. Wait, did we give a mic out to anybody yet? No, give it to Dawid. Okay.
I just wanted to point out what you've brought out in your teachings before about how the people were overwhelmed, but what they were overwhelmed by was probably the fact that the word was killing their flesh.
Well, I think they recognized, think about how you would feel if you're sitting there listening to Yahweh and recognizing that the voice you're hearing, the awesome power, and by the way, there's a tradition in the Jewish community that this was a full sensory experience. They smelled it, tasted it, heard it, felt it, saw it. Because there are some verses that says you saw the words. I wonder what that looked like. To hear, to see, to feel it, smell it, taste it. It was full sensory overload. No wonder they freaked out. And then you add to it the conviction of recognizing we just made an agreement to do whatever he says. And now he's saying a whole bunch of stuff we're not so sure we want to do all that stuff. Okay? And so this is trying to put yourself in their shoes is a tough thing to do. But to imagine the overwhelm that you might feel at that moment, okay? All right, who's next? Everybody's being shy. Okay, Nate.
I thought it was interesting that Yahweh spoke from the darkness. I don't know if that...
Yes, he's not just showing up in a vision where they can see him. The sound is coming out of darkness to bring light. And that's why I believe they could see the words. They were lit up in some way where they could actually see what he was saying. Is that there was a visual aspect to it, which is why we have so much visual things happening in Acts chapter 2. The tongues of fire, the rushing of the wind is the physical. There was the thunderings and the rushing of the wind you have also in Exodus 19. So you see those things going on. But there's that powerful idea that this is coming out of darkness. That's great. I like that. All right, Katie? Well, if the light's on, it's off. Why don't we just hand it to them already on and be a little easier?
It says...
If only you were married to somebody that knows about audio and visual and stuff.
Yeah, he left me. It says in Exodus 19 that I bore you on eagle's wings, and that's not the only reference that he talks about eagle's wings. Could you explain that a little further?
No. Okay, next question. Okay, so the eagle's wings metaphor, without me actually going and studying it out again and reminding myself, I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that people think of the eagle, we even do today, as being one of the more powerful of birds, a predator bird so it's not usually afraid of anything, but things are afraid of it. And so when he says, he didn't say I bore you on dove's wings or on some other thing, but I bore you on eagle's wings, a powerful, big, these eagles are big birds and they're powerful and they sort of are dominant in their areas and nothing really threatens them. Remember, they didn't have people running around with guns to shoot at them back in those days, okay? All you could do really was throw a rock at it or sling a rock at it or something. So the eagle was really a symbol of safety, power, dominance. So you should not be afraid. If I bear you on eagle's wings, you're safe and you're provided for. Does that make sense? Okay? And so it's to give you that powerful imagery. That's why the U.S. chose the eagle as a symbol for the state. It's that powerful imagery of the eagle. And also eagles do what? They tend to soar higher than a lot of the predator birds with their eyesight and their vision to see everything. There's a lot of metaphors you get out of these eagles. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, who's next? Okay, back there, Rob.
Okay, just reading this and it just caught my attention. I don't know why I've missed this, but in verse 7 and 19 it said, Moshe came and called for the elders of the people and set before them all the words which Yahweh commanded him. So he brought it before the elders first, the leadership, and then to the people.
Amen. See, there's a process, there's an order vertically here. Moses brought it to the elders. You can assume then the elders brought it to the people, and then it worked its way back to Moses. And Moses went back to Yahweh and said, yep, everybody agreed. So it's a great point. And again, that's to show that even back here, of course, a lot of people say, well, that was then, and now it's different because we're in the New Testament now, blah, blah, blah. No, it's always been the same structure all the way through. Yahweh speaks to leadership. We see this, by the way, in Acts chapter 2. It's the leadership that is speaking and prophesying. It's the leadership it's not everybody that has the vision. If you look at it in Acts chapter 2, there was a particular verse, I want to see if I can find it real quick, that talked about it. Okay, verse 42 says, and they were continuing steadfastly in the teaching of the emissaries. And then verse 43, and fear came upon every being, and many wonders and signs were being done by the emissaries. It wasn't everybody doing everything. There were those that were anointed and appointed and called to do the different things, the various things. It's very important that we see that, okay? All right, who's next?
Me.
Okay, Tamara.
Okay, I have a statement from one of your previous teachings. This is one of my favorite scriptures. When you mentioned in a previous teaching that the Jews believed that everyone at Mount Sinai heard Yahweh in their own language, that was very, I guess, powerful for me. I also loved what you mentioned before, that they could see it, feel it, and taste it. And I wondered, because I know they feared the shofar, I wondered, not that I could get the answer, if they actually feared that also. I've had a question, and now it's gone.
Okay. All right, so the ram's horn, is an important element of this because what are we looking forward to? The sounding of the shofar and Yeshua's return. So this is Yeshua speaking from the darkness at Mount Sinai. If you don't understand what I'm talking about there, go back and listen to the Father and the Son teaching. He's giving the commandments, and he's also the one connected with the sounding of the ram's horn, sounding of the shout of the shofar to get your attention, and it should stir and warn people, as far as that's going very clearly. The other thing that we talk about as far as the languages, we have two events that are very important sort of together. One is Yahweh does something to the languages of people at the Tower of Babel, at the Tower of Babel. What does he do? He confuses the language. Why? So people can't communicate and then start pushing forth all the desires of their own hearts and their own minds. So when we have the people come together, and if you ask the Jewish community, they'll tell you, in their understanding, everyone heard in their own language at Sinai. Interestingly enough, isn't that exactly what happens in Acts chapter 2? In order to bring restoration and unity back together, we're bringing back the ability to communicate where everyone hearing in their own language. Of course, the only other thing that was not mentioned, but the thing that I think is really critical about that is if you hear something in your own language, you tend to understand it more clearly. All right? Some of you, how many of you have relatives that speak another language better than English? Okay, so does it not help sometimes when you want to communicate to them to switch to their language? When you're using English and they're not getting it, what do? You switch to their language, and then all of a sudden they get it. When you tried English for a couple of, you tried one, so okay, forget it. I'll just say it in your language. It's easier. They get it because we understand our own language better. Of course, I speak 3 languages. 2 of them are gibberish and 1 is English. English is my second and third language. Never mind. Okay, so the clarity there, that's what happened in Acts chapter 2, was so that they would have no doubt what Peter was saying. And notice what they were saying in Acts chapter 2 is they were hearing the mighty deeds of Elohim. That's what they were hearing spoken. It said that they, let's see. Give me one, let me just get the right verse that I was looking for. It says in verse 11, it says, we hear them speaking in our own tongues the great deeds of Elohim. So it needed to be clear that they were receiving that information. And hopefully it's clear to all of you, it should be clear to all of you that what was going on in Acts chapter 2 was a miracle of hearing, not speaking. The people speaking thought they were just speaking. Okay? The people hearing were hearing it in their own language. So if you understand that he lists here like a dozen different possible languages and people from different lands, did the person think they were speaking in 12 languages at the same time? No, they were speaking and telling you, these are the great deeds I've witnessed. This is what my life with Yeshua, my experience. Remember, these guys lived with him. They were there through the whole course of that 3.5 years and that time and the events that happened. And they were excited to share that information, and each person is hearing it in their own language. Of course, the idea of them being filled with sweet wine, those are the people mocking the people claiming to hear in their own language. Apparently, there were some in the crowd that were not getting the miracle. They were not part of those who are called and open to receive. So they just were like, what are you talking about? You guys are nuts. You must be drunk. They're just talking. Nobody thought the speakers were drunk. That's a confusion that the Pentecostal movement has put forth, the charismatic movement has put forth. That is not what's going on here. If you follow the flow, he says they were all amazed and were puzzled, saying, what does this mean? And a bunch of the other people, they mocked them, saying, what are you talking about? You guys are drunk. That would be the vernacular today. What are you talking about? You guys, what are you, drunk? Nobody's speaking in your language. We're hearing them in our language. That's the only language they're speaking. They're not getting it. They weren't connecting the dots. Probably these were Galileans and saying, well, yeah, they're Galileans. I'm hearing it in Galilean, so what do I know? That doesn't sound like they're speaking another language to me. So let's clarify on that. Anybody else with Exodus 19 into Acts chapter 2? Okay, we have some people on this side. Okay, Sarah Beth.
Yeah, thank you, Nate, for bringing up the part about the darkness. When he said that, my brain went to Bereshit chapter 1 and 2 verses. Talks about the darkness being on the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the deep, and then Elohim starts talking. Would that basically be the exact same thing? Very much the same thing, and the first thing he does is bring in light into the darkness. Okay, which was essentially what was happening in Acts chapter 2, was these people are now going to bring light into the darkness by speaking the wonders of Elohim and sharing the revelation of the life of Yeshua. Revealing to them, you know this man, you heard about that he was killed, but you have no idea what was happening here. You don't know who he really was. You don't know who he really is. You don't understand what you experienced and saw. All you know is that the people around talked about this guy as a teacher, a prophet, a false teacher, whatever they were accusing him of, and that they killed him. He said, I'm here to tell you, and Peter goes on and gives this tremendous sermon. It's not very long, but he just lays it out there hard and strong. He says, you guys have no idea what you did, but it was planned and prophesied and supposed to happen from the beginning. And so what do you need to do? Repent. Not of your part in having him killed. Repent in general. Repent of being stupid, of being ignorant, of being foolish, of walking in self-sovereignty. Accept your Messiah as who he is. Excellent stuff. Okay, who's next? Okay, in the back? Okay, Rabbi Tom.
Okay, thank you. I was doing some reading and study this past week, and one of the things that occurred to me was the connection between Bikurim and Shavuot.
Yep.
And of course, Bikurim is where we begin our count. But 7 species were brought to the temple on Bikurim. But one of the things that never occurred to me is that the species that were brought were not fully ripe, especially the wheat and the barley. And they wouldn't be ripe for about another 7 weeks. And then they would go through a maturation process, and they'd be ready. And I thought, you know, that's a lot like we are. We come into Torah, and we're all jubilant, and we're excited and everything, but we're not really mature. We have to go through a maturation process. And that's what the counting upwards to from Bikurim to Shavuot does. It helps us to mature.
Amen. And then I guess someone had asked me the other day why we don't count backwards. I said because we're growing. We're adding on. We're not diminishing. So we're going from 1 to 50, not 50 down to 1. Okay, so maybe it's a progression instead of a regression, you know. So we're going forward. So I like that. Who's next? Okay, on this side?
Yes,
okay.
Rabbi.
Okay, Candace?
It's so, it had to been Yahweh because for the Omer reading last night, I had read part of Exodus 19 and a good deal of Exodus 20, but there was also some verses I brought in from the Brit Hadashah, and which, when I'm looking at these, I'm reminded of how mixed up my teaching was before, that it's been forever Torah. So the scripture is out of 1 Peter, the 2nd chapter, verses 9 and 10. And it says, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, who once were not a people, but now the people of Elohim, who had not obtained compassion, but now obtain compassion." It's so much clearer to me now that was speaking of the Torah.
Amen.
Getting the Torah and having that light in my life and being illuminated by Yahweh's truth and not the twisted truth that I heard when I was in the church.
Amen. Amen. All right, so Talmidim, students, what was Peter quoting when he talked about those who had been called not my people and having no compassion? Where's that quote from? Hosea where? Okay, chapter 1, that's right. Chapter 1. But also the conclusion is at the end of chapter 2 when he says, and those who, he says, I shall have compassion, and he says, you are my people. Okay, he says, and I shall sow her for myself in the earth, and I shall have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion, and I'll say they those who were not my people. So at the end of chapter 2, he says, you are my people, and they shall say, my Elohim. Amen. Okay, so it's important to know that sometimes when we read stuff in the Brit Hadashah, that these are references and quotes directly out of the Torah. So it's talking about a people that were talked about by Hosea, and Hosea was dealing with a people that were in trouble for breaking Torah, and they were not going to now be blessed and called my people for not keeping Torah, for continuing to break Torah. And see, this is the confusion that the mainstream isn't telling you. They're trying to convince you that doing no Torah or telling you that Torah is done away with somehow gets you to be called the people of Elohim. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't make any sense at all. But yet, remember, it says our fathers have been given strong delusion and we've inherited lies, and unfortunately, that's what's been perpetuated on us for a very long time. But if the people who were reading the New Testament would spend a lot more time in the Old, they would recognize, oh, this is what Peter was referring to. Oh, this is what Yeshua was referring to. This is what Paul was referring to. I mean, the amount of New Testament that's actually quoted out of Old Testament is incredibly huge. The volumes, of course, if you don't know the Old Testament, you don't know, unless, of course, you have a very well footnoted Bible that might refer you back to the verse. But are you going to go back and understand the context of the verse in Hosea and what was going on in Hosea? Of course, if you listen to Discovering Your Identity, you'd have the context of Hosea. We cover it very thoroughly. I don't remember what part, but in one of the teachings there. Okay, who's next? On this side. Okay, Deirdre and then Shira.
I want your opinion, Rabbi, and please, to be corrected if I am wrong in my understanding. I have heard in my past that Babel was Yahweh coming against the nations because they were trying to overthrow him. And Shavuot, what happened with Kepha and the others, is Yahweh. Sorry, my daughter is distracting me. It is Yahweh calling back, the nations. And now, in the understanding that I have, it's, calling back the Yehudim that have been scattered, the Israelites that have been scattered.
Well, both.
I was wondering if, that was just a correct, interpretation.
Yes, that's correct. And, and that's the whole thing, is that he could have listed all 70 nations there in Acts chapter 2. They probably were mostly all there, just like they were all there at Sinai. And that's, again, the Jews have understood this for the thousands of years since that all 70 languages were represented there at Sinai.
Okay, so it was basically an undoing of Babel.
To a certain degree, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, excellent. Okay, Shira? I'll come back to you after on this side. See if we can get one or two at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah, Deidre, we're on the same path there, because I was also noticing that huge list in Acts and thinking about the mixed multitude and just thinking how this is really underscoring your whole point, Rabbi, that the good news of Torah is for all peoples.
Amen.
And they were all there.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was arrested by the wilderness location in Sinai. Okay, they just come out of Egypt. They're in a very insecure position. Supposed to be heading for the promised land very soon, but very much in that chaos before the before the light dawned at Torah. And then again at Shavuot, they're in the land, they're in Jerusalem, but they've been scattered. They've been coming there for Shavuot, a lot of them, from all over the place where they've been scattered, and they come there, but they're under Roman domination. So again, these things are coming forth. This light is breaking forth in both instances on his people who are in chastisement. They are in correction. They are in very, very much ignorance and insecurity and some pain and some struggle, and that yearning, his timing in bringing that light was amazing, because here are people yearning for something better. And it just struck me, in the comfortable places, we don't usually get the big revelations of him. It's in those sorrowful places, in those testing places, that we get the revelation. I've found that true in my life.
Amen. So. I agree. Well said. Well said. Okay, back there, live stream.
All right. Anders Olson's comment is on Exodus 19:9. So the purpose was for the people to believe Moses. He never intended to talk directly to the people, referring to Yahweh. 19:9.
I'm looking at it now. Well, he said, look, I'm coming. He said so. He wanted to speak to Moses, but the people would hear all of it at that point. So he said, because he wasn't planning to speak to all the people all the time. He was planning to give more than just the 10 Commandments to all the people, by the way. The people interrupted and said, hold on, this is more than we can handle. Okay? But what we have is, yes, Anders is correct. The intention was that he would always be going through Moses. But so that they would believe and trust Moses, he wanted to show them, I'm going to speak to Moses and all of you get to hear it. So he's talking to everybody. He says, so he did this so that the people would believe forever. And so that's a good point. Thank you, Anders.
But you can correct me too. I mean, Yahweh knows the beginning from the end, so he knew their heart and what they would do, so he knew he was going to go down this road anyways.
That's true. Okay, so he's saying that, well, since Yahweh knew the people would reject him, that he was going to end up talking through Moses. But also, it maintains the integrity of the structure that he always has, which is Yahweh works with individuals, and those individuals then share their vision and their understanding with the bigger groups. Okay, and that's why there are heads over thousands, heads over hundreds, etc. That even here, Moses shared it with the elders, and then the elders shared it with the rest of the people. And actually, even when Moses went back into Egypt, he was supposed to, with the signs and the wonders, to when he went to, from being out there in the wilderness and in Midian, etc. And then when he came back to Egypt, who did he go to? He went to show the signs and wonders to the elders, and then let the elders tell the people, "Yep, okay, well, this is what we're doing." So, anybody else? Okay, Dawid. Excuse me. I don't know why I have this cough today, but
Okay, so I'm not actually double dipping. This is on behalf of my wife.
okay.
And Adonai said unto Moshe, this is Exodus 19, starting in verse 10, "Go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day Adonai will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai." And it also says, "And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled." So the general question is there any kind of significance at all or correlation to the New Testament in any way about the third day?
Yeah, all third day things generally point towards a Messiah-related thing. Okay, you see people, and actually a lot of times it's a number 3 in general. You see something that's connected. You have, of course, the Jonah being in the fish, and he says that's the sign. But we see a lot of other places where we see somebody that should have died that didn't die. That kind of thing is linked also to Messiah. You see that with Joseph, being thrown in the pit. He should have been left there to die, but then he wasn't. He was rescued out of there. And so, does it correlate exactly with the thunderings and all that stuff? No, because that stuff happened when he died, not when he was resurrected. And we don't have those same things like linearly one-to-one matching. Okay, and I'm looking over here because that's where the questioner was standing and sitting now. Okay, but that's very important that we do see that there are linkages to anything to do with the number 3. Generally, he's trying to point out something about Messiah. Okay? And so there's a linkage, of course, to the stuff on Sinai with Acts chapter 2, which is very much linked to Messiah. Okay? And so you have that kind of linkage going on there as well. Okay, who's next? Okay, in the back, go ahead.
All right, from Doreen Quinn. It says that Aaron was to come up with Moshe in verse 24. Did Aaron hear and speak with Yahweh as also?
Okay, so you almost got exactly what I was going to say. Did anybody notice that Moses went up and down more than once? That struck me a little bit different. He says, "Well, Moses, come up here. Okay, now that you're up here, go down there." And he's like, "Well, but wait a minute. We put borders and he says, "I know. Go down there anyway. Go get Aaron and come back up here." So it's very interesting that he actually went up and down. And I'm sure it was quite a little climb to get up to the mountain to the place where Yahweh wanted him. And he says, "Hey, Moses, get up here." He goes all the way up. He says, "Okay, go back down there." That's what he said to him. He says, and Yahweh came down upon the Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Yahweh called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up, and Yahweh said to Moses, "Go down," and warn the people lest they break through. And Moses says, "The people are not able to break through." And Yahweh says, "Well, come," and they go down and then come up again, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests. So he had Aaron come up. How far up? I don't know. Where did he end up standing? I don't know. It doesn't give us any more detail than that. So it's a good question. But I think it's interesting just that he didn't just go up and disappear. He went up, came back down, and he went back up. Okay, next question. Okay, going to? Okay, Christine.
So you mentioned that at Mount Sinai it was the birthing of a nation, and then here in Acts 2 it's another birthing or like a rebirth. Would you say that's connected to Yeshua's conversation with Nicodemus about having to be reborn?
Probably not.
Okay.
We'll go back to the little in focus called Messing with Nicodemus or something like that, whatever it's called. What's it called? Picking on Nicodemus.
Okay. And then...
Because in that one, I go exactly to what the Nicodemus thing is about and which one of the prophets it's talking about.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that. Then I have another thing I'd like to point out, but I guess I'll wait till we go to Psalms.
Okay. All right, now we're going to Psalms. Okay, Christine?
Well, now
I couldn't resist. It was too easy a setup.
Can you hold that for a second? Okay. All right.
If anybody wants to go back to Exodus or Acts, you can still do that, but let's go to Psalms. I think we pretty much covered the Exodus Acts thing pretty good.
Okay, now I have to find my spot. Sorry.
That's okay. Psalm 119. Well, while you're looking for that, let me tell you a little story. So, had a person send me an email, and you've heard the story before. Some of you never heard the story. Sent me an email a while back that said, well, I was in Christianity, and then I started coming into the Hebrew roots thing, and I thought that was all well and good, and then I felt led of the Spirit or whatever to just spend 30 days reading nothing but Galatians, and I was like, oh, okay. And he said, after that, I realized that the whole Hebrew roots thing was a lie, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and he sent me this, and he said, please don't disrespect or whatever me. And I says, I'll send you a document, I want you to read it, and everything else. I said, okay, fine. So read his document, send him back an email. I read your document. I happen not to agree with you, but I read the whole thing. So I'm going to ask you, for integrity's sake, go ahead and spend, I think he was reading Galatians and Hebrews for the whole 30 days. I said, fine, let's go spend 30 days reading Deuteronomy and Psalm 119. And let's see if you end up in the same place. Because if you want to clarify your brain being all confused on Hebrews and Galatians, go read Psalm 119 and Deuteronomy a few times. And recognize that the speaking directly from the creator of the universe that's in those two places cannot be undone and unraveled by the way Christianity thinks Galatians is talking, or Paul is talking in there, or the book of Hebrews. Okay, the book of Hebrews and Galatians, two things. One, they do not have to have everything filtered through them. They have to filter through the foundation. Deuteronomy is the foundation. Secondarily, also, they have no authority to disregard, overrule, or undermine anything that was said previously. Okay? And so we have to then say, okay, I'm probably not understanding Paul very well. Or Paul really is a problem, one of the two. But the thing is, you cannot have Paul undermining and changing what Moses told us. Because hopefully we all know that there was none greater than Moses till Yeshua. All the prophets, everybody, including even the apostles that you see, not too many, 4 or 5 of them, you get to hear them writing, when James and Peter and John, etc. But there was none greater than Moshe. And Paul is not all of a sudden greater than all of them, which is what Christianity would like you to believe. So he does not get to create Torah, undermine it, or wipe it out. And I don't think he does. But I think people think he does. They interpret it that way. So when we read things like Deuteronomy every year at Sukkot, when we read Psalm 119 today, these things to show you also there's nobody other than David. I'm not saying there's nobody ever been, but nobody ever mentioned that is a man after Yahweh's own heart. So if you want to understand Yahweh's heart, you get to read about David's heart. And David pours out his heart in Psalm 119. I mean, that is the man's heart. And so if that's what being a man after Yahweh's own heart is, which means that David's heart was inclined towards Yahweh's heart in a very strong way, then maybe you want to spend a lot of time reading and understanding Psalm 119. You might want to go listen to 4 or 5 or 8 parts or whatever it was of the Heart of the Matter teaching where I spend that whole time in Psalm 119. Beginning in, I don't know, the 20s or 30s somewhere, okay? I don't know what part it starts in, but somewhere in there. But you might want to go focus on that because this is where we get things all out of whack, is that we're sold and told that Paul's the guy. I don't want to disrespect Paul. He has his place. But Paul, I think, would be offended that you would elevate him above any of that other stuff. If he was a student of Gamaliel as claimed in Scriptures, there is no way he would disrespect Moshe. There is no way. Moshe is the prophet until Yeshua. There are lots of other prophets, but none like Moshe. And so how do we elevate all these others? Now, since Yeshua, there still has been none like Moshe. Yeshua was the only one, and he was greater, obviously. And he did nothing to undermine Moshe. Matter of fact, he's the one speaking to Moshe. And so I'm sure he was very proud of Moshe. Okay, and he also was the one that told Moshe, okay, you messed that one time up, you're not going in the land. Okay, so this is really important. And which is why he said, when the Pharisees, when they sit on Moses' seat, do what they tell you when they're reading the Torah to you. Sitting on Moses' seat is a place of teaching Torah. He says, when they're doing that, then they're speaking like Moses speaks, fine, do what they say. But don't do what they do because they're hypocrites. Let's understand this, very important. Okay, did you get your question worked out? Okay, go ahead.
It's in verse 67. It says, before I was afflicted, I myself was going astray, but now I have guarded your word. And then a few verses down in 71, he says, it was good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your laws. And I thought, that might be something good to say to myself one day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, in Exodus 19, see, I told you we'd go back there. Okay, in Exodus 19, what did he say to the people when they said, well, we don't want to hear from you? Actually, in Exodus 20. He says in verse 20, he says, do not fear, for Elohim has come to, Deuteronomy 8, to you. He's come to prove you in order to know if that you would fear him and do not sin. See, that fits right into later on. We're going to read in Deuteronomy, because Shavuot obviously comes before Deuteronomy. So in Exodus, when they're starting out at Sinai, that by the time they get to the Jordan in Deuteronomy, he's saying, look, you went through this whole journey as part of that proving and testing. Then you link it to Deuteronomy 10:12, where he says, the step one is to fear him. Will you fear him and keep his commands? He didn't say, will you just be afraid of him and not want to hear from him? Okay? He says, do not fear, but fear. Because he's saying, don't be afraid, but have awe, respect, and reverence. Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you. He's testing you. He's proving you to see whether it's in your heart to keep his commandments or not. There's a little phrase there that then you go, wait a minute, I know that phrase. That phrase is in Deuteronomy 8:2, where he said he led them through the wilderness to test them, to prove whether it was in their heart to keep the commandments or not. And here they are in the receiving of the commandments already failing because they're afraid to even hear them. Powerful stuff. Okay, Psalm 119, more stuff. Anybody? You? Okay, Sarah Beth has her hand up. Actually, Wayne's got it first. Wayne, stand up. You didn't raise your hand when I said anybody else because you had the mic in it.
I just got a question going back with Exodus 19. I just see a lot of similarity between the mountain and the tabernacle. Would you say there's something in there between them two?
Well, the similarities possibly from the idea that there were boundaries about who could go where and when and where you were not allowed to go, because they did protect certain areas. And now again, if you notice that if you use that tabernacle mountain analogy, then you can see why only the Kohen HaGadol, which was Aaron, would be allowed to go up the mountain with Moses. And you notice that Moses goes because Moses is the high priest of Melchizedek. He's the Melchizedekian priest, which you can see is elevated above the Levitical priest, because it's the Melchizedekian one that anoints the other one. Good connection. All right, thank you. Okay, Sarah Beth, and then Janet.
Okay, to connect, may I just say Psalm 119 is my favorite. I was like full when we were just finished reading that one. I was done. But to connect the darkness, with Psalm 119 and what Christine said. Before I was afflicted, I myself was going astray. Affliction we often term in our common vernacular as, a dark time, whatever, or our trials. We could see them as not being fun, dark, but they bring the light. Is that a good connection? Good way of looking at it?
Sure. Okay, Janet or Olivier, whichever one wants the mic. Okay, so she still can't speak. Okay, so go ahead. If the light's on, it's off.
All right, I'm going to be a voice then. So the question is, several times in Psalm 119, King David says to Yahweh, "Revive me according to your word." Could you elaborate more on this, please?
Okay, so I'm not sure what your question is. So you don't understand what he means by revive? Is that it? Okay, so you have to understand, let's keep it in very simple terms. If I fall down and faint, you're going to revive me. He feels weak. He feels overwhelmed. He feels like he's lost his energy. He's lost his drive. He's like, re-energize me, revive me. It's not revival like in Christianity sense. This is more of a saying, look, I'm being persecuted. I'm being worn out. I'm being attacked. This thing is not easy. He says, revive me, re-energize me, wake. This is what Shabbat does for everybody, hopefully. That you come here and it revives you. It breathes life into you. And he's saying, these people are taking the life out of me. And so revive me. And then he talks about how the Torah does that. Embracing it, living it, walking it, re-energizes, reanimates you. Amen? Okay, good question. All right. Okay, on this side, okay, who's got the mic? Oh, Nate, you're not paying attention on this side. Owen had to come all the way across. Made that poor guy run across the whole building. All right, Candace, go ahead.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Christine, you brought up a good thought about being afflicted and everything. I was able to cross-reference that in 2 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, where Paul said he sought Yahweh 3 times to remove that thorn, but Yahweh chose to leave it there. And I know I've been through some affliction in my life, and my legs slowly losing the use of my legs, and that's been a really hard thing, but I also see why Yahweh has allowed it. I don't know, he may have done it because I was going astray a lot, and so it slowed me down. It made me have to really reflect inside that my afflictions are here to help me to grow in Yahweh, not to make me mad or angry at him, but to give thanks for my afflictions, because had it not been for my afflictions, I would really be astray. I probably would be 6 foot under, honestly, to be honest about it. But I thank Yahweh that I'm losing the use of my legs. But I'm really grateful to him because he used that to help me.
Amen. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Dawid?
Okay, actually, this is me double dipping, so I am sorry about that. But from Psalm 97, Adonai reigns. Let the earth rejoice. Let the multitude of isles be glad. Clouds and darkness are round about him. Righteousness and judgment are the foundation of his throne. A fire goes before him and burns up his enemies round about. His lightnings lightened the world. The earth saw and trembled. The hills melted like wax at the presence of Adonai, at the presence of Adonai of all the earth. The heavens declared his righteousness, and all the peoples saw his glory. Confounded be all they who serve carved idols, who boast themselves of idols. Bow down before him, all gods. Zion heard and was glad, and the daughters of Yehuda rejoiced because of your judgments, Adonai. For you, Adonai, are high above all the earth. You are exalted far above all gods. You that love Adonai hate evil. He preserves the souls of his pious ones. He delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. Light is sown for the righteous, and gladness for the upright in heart. Rejoice in Adonai, O you righteous, and give thanks to his holy name. I just thought that was a major connection to the entire Sinai experience.
Very nice.
And it also brought to mind in Isaiah 45, when it talks about, when he's talking to Cyrus, in a prophecy about Cyrus, before even Cyrus is born, and he's saying, I am Yahweh, I create light and darkness. I create darkness and form light. I create evil and make peace. I, Yahweh, do all these things. And so those things just reminded me of in these conversations about light and dark, about all that too.
Amen. Nice connection. Appreciate that. Okay, we got another one on this side? Nope. All right, anybody else? Okay, bring it back to Rob at the live stream desk. Excuse me.
Okay, from Aubrey and Jeremy Allen, Psalm 119:56 says, David says that this is mine. He took possession of what he was given, and it reminded me of the parable of the talents, and Yeshua talking about the servant who took possession of what he had been given.
Amen. And actually then in verse 57, he says, you are my portion. So he realized this is mine, but I know where I got it from. Okay, he also says that in the other verse, he says, he says, this is mine because I have observed your orders. Anybody else? You got more? Go ahead.
This is from Shauna. It's back to Exodus 19. It says, was Sinai like the wedding day with Israel saying, I do? If so, how does Pentecost or Shavuot fit into this?
Well, Shavuot doesn't fit into it as the wedding because remember, Shavuot is starting to point us to the wedding. What this is explaining how we need to start getting ourselves ready for the wedding. Okay, that's it. That was the whole answer. Next question. Okay, so it isn't a linear one-to-one. Everything at Sinai matches everything at Acts chapter 2 in the upper room. And by the way, they didn't do all of this in the upper room. There wasn't room in the upper room for everybody. Okay, they didn't make buildings that big with rooms that big. They met in the upper room, and then they came out, and there were people out there gathered to hear all the things that were going on. Okay. You have more? No? Okay. All right, so on this side, Wayne's got his hand up.
Okay, now we're going into Acts. Okay, verse 39.
Wayne's on a 30-minute delay. He went to Exodus, and then now he's going to Acts. He'll get to 119 in a minute.
All right.
Okay.
We got from 39 to 42. Is that language talking about the covenant there? That once we accept His word and immerse in the Spirit, that we're now becoming in the covenant. For the promises to you and to your children and to all who are far off, as many as Yahweh our Elohim shall call. And with many other words, he honestly witnessed and urged them, saying, be saved from this crooked generation. Then those indeed who gladly received his word were immersed, and on that day about 3,000 beings were added to them. And they were continually steadfast in the teaching of the emissaries, and in fellowship, and in the breaking of bread. Now the breaking of the bread, is that the signet for the covenant?
Well, the breaking of bread, again, is that same thing that you saw Abraham and Melchizedek doing, the same thing that Yeshua did the Last Supper, the same thing we do right before we have our meals here. It's a covenantal part of relationships. You don't generally sit down to break bread with people you don't like. Okay, it's a relationship type of thing. You break bread. And the breaking of bread means you're sharing the same bread because you're going to tear off a piece of the bread and then pass it to the other person. So the breaking of bread and sharing of bread is a relationship type of thing. So that's, I think, part of what they're talking about. That there's a relationship now between all these people. And that has always been the same thing when you go all the way back to Abraham. And you see this with Melchizedek. So thank you with that. Now, I think one of the things that's important that we see is that as we're going through this thing, is that these 3,000 beings were added to them without a single epistle of Paul, without 1st, 2nd, or 3rd John, without 1st and 2nd Peter, without James, actually without the Gospels. They had the people themselves giving their own testimony. Yet 3,000 were added. Now, this isn't the first place you see thousands more being added all the time. But how were they added? Because they had the Torah, they had the Tanakh, and they had the witness. And this is Revelation 12:17. It says, those who have the witness and those who have the commandments. Okay? So those who have those two things. So when people kind of go and build everything they build on just the Pauline epistles, well, hold on a second. You should be able to get where you need to go without those. That's not saying that you don't need them like they're useless, but you don't need them. They can be useful. You don't need, by the way, 1st and 2nd Peter. You don't need 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. You don't need Revelation. You don't need James. These things you don't need. What you need is the Torah and the witness. Revelation tells you this. And you see it play out right here. What did these people have? Only those two things. They had none of the rest of it. Didn't exist yet. Okay? In Acts chapter 2 is only happening 50 days, basically, after the death of Yeshua, give or take a day based on the whole, when he was buried and how that whole thing worked out. But when you work it all out, he has only had that journey. There's no time for anybody writing epistles and writing letters and the congregations being installed. None of that's happened yet. This is the launching of all of that in Acts chapter 2. So just recognize that if those 3,000 can get to what they needed to get at that moment, so can everybody else. Which is why when people make their case to me and they're using the epistles of Paul, I say, that's great. Make that same point. Don't use Paul. If you can't make that point without using Paul, then that point might not be valid. It's very important. You have to be able to use the Tanakh to make your points. That's the foundation. And so that's very important as we look through this. Okay, so I really appreciate that we brought that out because that section mentions, hey, look at that, 3,000 were added right there. Nate.
This is why I was a little distracted earlier. The account in Exodus 24, starting in verse 12, it says that Yahweh said to Moshe, come up to me on the mountain and stay here, and I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments I have written for their instruction. Oh, are you kidding me? Manny, it went out. Oh, there it is. Then Moshe set out with Yehoshua, his aide, and Moses went up on the mountain of God. He said to the elders, wait here for us until we come back to you. Aharon and Hur are with you, and anyone involved in a dispute can go to them. So how far up the mountain did Joshua go? Was he there with Moshe the whole time, or because Joshua...
No, it doesn't say, and we speculate where people were. And also you have to remember there's the time he went up and got the commands, and then of course there's the the time he went up to get the second set. Okay, and how things were maybe a little different when he went up to get the second set. Because after all, he breaks the first set, throwing at them, and they were, eating and drinking and playing and making a mess of everything. So, let's be careful we don't get too distracted by, boy, it'd be great to know. But it's not really that critically important to know where these guys ended up in the, where they had to stop on the mountain, etc. But you have Moses, you have his next in line, which was Joshua, and you have Aaron, the high priest, as they would be established at some point. They weren't yet actually established that way. And so Yahweh had allowed them to be honored with certain positions, knowing that these were the next two guys. And so that's the important piece out of it. Where did they end up, or how far did they end up? I couldn't answer that question, okay? Okay, I can answer the question, how far can a dog run into the woods? That I can answer. Do you know the answer? How far can a dog run into the woods? Halfway, then he's running out. Very good. Okay. All right? That didn't work for anybody. Okay, never mind. That one just fell flat. Okay. But I don't know how far they went up the mountain. Let's go to anybody else. Anybody else? Psalm 119. Yes, no? Another question from Janet through her version of Moses or Aaron, who's the spokesperson.
So Psalm 119, it's broken down. It's broken down using the alphabet. Any significance of that?
Yeah, there's 22 sections, so there's 22 letters, so they section them off by the alphabet. Okay, the connection that you might want to find out of that, okay, so there are scripture copies, Bibles that have it where they break it down. In the Tanakh, they break it down that each of the sections has one of the letters in order of the alphabet. So the first section that you read is Aleph, then Bet, then Gimel, then Dalet, then Hey, etc. Okay? There are 22 letters, 22 verses of 8 in Psalm 119. Okay? The Psalm 119, I think, would be easy for us to understand that it is primarily focused on what? Torah. Torah is the core element of Psalm 119. The discussion of it, the love of it, the praise of it, the meditating on it, etc., the guarding of it, the wanting to understand it more, all of it's about Torah. And there is an understanding from our Jewish brothers that, and I would agree with this, that the universe, the world, was built on the Aleph Bet, which forms the Torah. Okay? And so the Aleph Bet, or the alphabet, as we would think of it, the Hebrew letters, which form the words, which form the world, which he spoke into existence. And so having the Torah basically encapsulated in Psalm 119 in 176 verses, but broken up into 22 stanzas that represent the 22 letters, so that's showing you that this is the foundation building blocks of everything. Which is another reason why Psalm 119 is so foundational and so fundamental to what we need to understand. So that's a good question. Thank you, Janet, through Olivier. Okay, now you got Stephanie wanting to ask a question. Or make a comment.
It's more like make a comment. Because you have someone, a partner in your own home who listens very closely to yours. Is this camera on me?
Yep. Too bad you guys didn't do anything. Oh, you did do something related to Psalm 119.
That's right. Too bad. Why didn't I listen to this? But so Julie.
Okay, it is Shavuot, but this is very blatant product placement.
It kind of is, but don't do it on Shavuot. Wait till tomorrow. But
Okay,
you too can own one of these. I know, really. But really, you were teaching this, I believe, on your own. You two were teaching it. You were teaching it to the adults, and she was creating it for the children. And there was a really fabulous lesson that we did for one of the feasts. And that's why I think for Julie and I, hearing the children read this was really special, because this is certainly something that the kids can grasp, they understand, and we all, I think, are trying to put in that foundation, that love of the Torah, and this is the one place that it really does show that. And I'm wondering about bringing back the Psalm 119 challenge.
Oh, yes, we can certainly do that. Okay, actually, we should be doing challenges again. All right, so for those of you that are interested or aware, we do have programs that we do at the feast. One of them was the teaching of Psalm 119, where the Rebbitzin put together a program recognizing that there were how many key words that you focused on? 7, 8. Okay, 8 key words that popped up in almost like every verse. And so, except for one. All right, so the children learned those 8 key words, and they are highlighted in the little Psalm 119 booklet so that you can know that those are the key words. And you see them in the booklet, and the booklet does have, it's a beautiful tabletop thing, and we're not promoting it today. Okay. Even though Miss Stephanie kind of held it right out there, but not today. Okay. Anybody else for Psalm 119? Okay, on this side. Okay, Kathy?
Thank you, Rabbi. I just want to dovetail on Stephanie's comment, and I wanted to thank you and all of the children of the congregation, because hearing you read Scripture is precious to my heart. And hearing you read it, and I feel, maybe it's just my feeling, that when I read Scripture, I'm reading it and I'm saying it aloud. It goes deeper into my heart. So I believe Yahweh's planting it in all your hearts.
Amen.
For your good and for His glory. Amen.
Wonderful. Amen. I was hoping that would be the case. This is why I chose to do the children and have that. This is, an inspiration given to me, when I was trying to plan for what to do today. I said, you know what, why don't we have the children read? And Rebbitzin thought that was a great idea. to have the children read. And I just wanted to make sure we had enough, and we did. We had exactly enough, of the young adults and the children to do that, so it worked out just beautifully. After all, we needed 22 readers. I mean, that's a lot of readers. Okay, anybody else? Okay, Nate, we got another one from Candace, okay?
It's me again, Rabbi.
I recognize you.
I wanted to say something about Acts, the 2nd chapter. I came out of the United Pentecostal Church into this movement. And for almost 30 years, I was there in the United Pentecostal Church. And they really preached hard about you have to speak in tongues. You have to be baptized in the J word to be saved. And I've since learned differently, but I've noticed the difference about me being here, especially under your tutoring, Rabbi, that I spoke supposedly in these tongues, which now I use to deter salespeople who call me. It works, they hang up. They really do hang up. But anyway.
I'll have to use that technique one day.
Yeah. I just, it's the quickest way to get rid of them. But anyway, the whole time, all those years I was speaking in tongues, I changed some, but I never really changed. It really didn't help me change till I learned, I'm learning, and I'm still learning how to apply living Torah in today's world, how to walk it, and that is what's changing me. I mean, I think you could witness, Rabbi, from when you first knew me, how much change there is. You're not calling me and telling me to stop it.
That's a good change.
That's a good change. So the real change that has happened in me is not garble goop talking, but it's the cleansing of the word, the Torah.
Amen.
Learning how, I had several people I sat under over the years, and they would read Torah, and I guess to the best of their ability explain it, but they never explained it and brought it down to how I should walk it out.
Right.
And you have done that, Rabbi.
Appreciate that.
That's why I'm here today.
Amen. Amen.
And let me tell you, I really, last week I was going through a struggle, and I felt hurt, and I wanted to run. And as soon as I felt that urge to run, I immediately stopped and said, no, you're staying right where you are.
Amen.
Because where am I going to go? Where am I going to hear the words of life and how to apply those words that will bring healing, the healing I need in my life. So for all you Pentecostal, I hope there's some United Pentecostal people listening online, that is not what it's all about, talking in tongues. It's not even, that's not going to change you. Having the Torah and knowing how to walk it out in your everyday life, that is life-changing.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Candace. Very good. All right. Anybody else before I wrap this thing up? We got hands. All of a sudden, the hands are popping up. Okay. Nadia.
May I go back to Acts?
You could be on the same time warp as Wayne. That's okay, because then, of course, Candace is, everybody's back to Acts. So let's go back to Acts.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay, so for future reference, when I say we're talking about Exodus, that's the time for the Exodus questions. When I mention Acts, that's the time for the Acts question. No, go ahead. I'm teasing.
So anyway, Acts 2 at the beginning, and when the day of the festival of Shavuot had come, they were all with one mind in one place. Now, when I attended the Christian church, everything was about Pentecost. I didn't even know Shavuot existed. I didn't know nothing about the Torah. I didn't know nothing about the law. Is there a reason why, if Acts, that's the first mention of Shavuot, shouldn't they be teaching it, or at least going back and remembering something that was so important? Do you know why?
Yes, because they're not letting you know anything to the left of Matthew. Okay? See, remember, the audience initially for everything in your book, until Paul starts teaching Gentiles and Peter starts going to Gentiles, is only focused on Jewish people that would know what Shavuot is. They would know what Pesach is, Passover. They would know what Sukkot is. They would understand Shabbat. They would understand Kashrut. They would understand all these things. And so it didn't seem like the writer writing here in the book of Acts felt like he needed to explain a whole lot about the Festival of Weeks, or Shavuot here, because they were all supposed to be in Jerusalem and of one accord, in one place. And I think the miracle is it says that they were with one mind in one place. I'm not sure that's happened ever since that moment. I don't even think it happened for like 10 minutes later when they started all arguing over here. But for at least for 5 seconds, they were all with one mind in one place. But the one mind that they were in was they were trying to be obedient by being where they were supposed to be on Shavuot. They're supposed to be in Jerusalem. Okay? And so they were there together, and they were in one place. All right, so that was the important thing. So why weren't you told about it? Well, after all, that requires admitting that the stuff in the left side of the book is relevant still. Not relevant then, but relevant now. Or at least relevant here in the book of Acts. Which is, by the way, why you see people doing sacrifices still in the book of Acts. Even though you would think that the churches have taught that that was all done away with. Well, no, it wasn't. Didn't stop till there wasn't a temple. And that wasn't until 40 years later. So it was a while before we had that. They all participated in temple service and brought their offerings like they needed to every year by year. Okay? So that's a good point. But why did the church not tell you? Because they didn't think it was relevant. What they think is relevant here is the tongue speaking. You know, and they think it's relevant that the idea, you got to be saved in the name of Jesus. And that's just the reading an English copy after translation out of Greek, which is butchering the name in the first place. And they're only focused on these concepts that are bent and twisted that they've put forth. The verses out of context. What I've been teaching you now for most of the last 7 years. Framework, context, understanding how things actually fit, what's really going on, what the issues really are. Okay? And so he's saying here when he's talking about they're trying to explain to these people who did not accept Yeshua when he came in the flesh and when he was killed, to say there is no other authority by which you can be delivered out of all this mess. The authority is in Yeshua. That's what they meant by the name. Go back and listen to the teaching, No Other Name. It's not about the name here. He's saying, look, you guys have not accepted this man's authority as being the true son of the living Elohim. You just thought he was a man and you killed him. Well, he didn't literally, but they got the Romans to kill him. But they did not recognize, and he's saying you need to recognize this man has the authority to deliver you. And there's no other name or authority under which you can find deliverance. To be brought out of all of the chastisement, punishments, and everything else that the Jews at that time, that was the remnant that was there, had been suffering. You want to be released out of all this mess? You're going to have to start coming under the authority of the only one who can bring you out of it. So there's no other authority under which you can be saved, or by which you can be saved. And that's what's happening in Acts chapter 2. Hopefully that makes some sense to everybody. Okay? But see, that's, again, the church only wants to focus on what it wants to focus on to make its point. It's kind of like when they do studies, the government or whatever is doing studies, a business is doing a study, they're going to take the statistics and focus on the little piece of it that they want to focus on because it's a piece that makes them look good, or it's the piece that makes the other guy look bad, or whatever it is, instead of focusing on the full picture. Anytime you zoom in too far and miss the full picture, you're likely to miss the point. And that's what happens here in the churches. They miss the point because they're not taking a look at the whole book. They're too zoomed in. And by the way, that's purposeful. Maybe not today. Today they're just perpetuating the purposeful, but it started off on purpose going in that direction. Because the early church fathers did not want to do anything that looked Jewish. Because there was a rift between the original believers who were Jewish and the new ones that were coming in that were Gentile. And so you can thank the early church fathers who were held up in such high regard for giving you that mess. They deserve the blame. Okay, next question. Where was the mic? On this side, I'm sorry. Okay, Deirdre.
Just a couple of verses that kind of spoke to me.
We're back in Psalm 119?
Yes, we're back in Psalm 119. Promise.
I'm getting dizzy.
Verses 70 and 71, their heart has become like fat without feeling. I have delighted in your Torah. It was good for me that I was afflicted, that I might learn your laws. Just a little bit of backstory in my life. Growing up, Seventh-day Adventist, my mother did her best to make sure that, she was raising us the way she felt appropriate. And one of those ways was, making sure that she knew that what we were imbibing was, appropriate in her standard. So we listened to a lot of Christian radio stations. And one of the songs that was on there spoke to me at a very young age, trying to be the best, person that I knew how to be, trying to serve the Creator or the Elohim that I knew then. And the lyrics were very, very strange to me at the age of 13 and 12. There was a woman talking about how, she, only felt relief when she was cut. And, she didn't want to hide, but, she only felt, the only anesthetic that made her feel anything, just killed her on the inside. And she's saying, I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to, look in the mirror and hate myself. And I was in middle school at the time, and I was, very sadly, at such a young age, familiar with cutting. I wasn't doing it at that point, but I had friends who were. So I asked my mother, I said, Mom, she's on a Christian radio station, and she's talking about self-harm? And she said, no, I want you to really listen to the lyrics again. Relief exists when I'm cut. I don't want to feel afraid. I don't want to die inside. Just to breathe in. You see who I am. And I said, well, Mom, what is that really saying then? And she said, sometimes God gives you open heart surgery to remove the yuck. And sometimes he doesn't give you an anesthetic. The world will try to give you an anesthetic, but it will kill you. Sometimes you have to let him cut you open, and it will hurt. You will feel pain, but you will feel better afterwards because everything is gone. He's taken everything out of you. And I don't know, that just those words came back as I was, reading that over, and I was wondering what your thoughts on that would.
I don't think I need to add anything to it. It was very good. But realize we're talking about something that's coming from the outside. You're not doing it to yourself. This is the problem, is that a lot of times our children are running into, and other adults, the idea of hurting themselves and causing the pain because they're not able to handle the actual things that are happening around them. So
Right.
it's an escape. They do it because they become numb to the things that are happening around them because they can't deal with things. And so what this is talking about, though, in the verses, it says, look, it was good that Yahweh allowed things to happen in my life that woke me up to recognize that I should be learning his ways. Because then he turns and says, the Torah of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces.
Right. So coming into Torah, I've been able to, to recognize that. I don't know, I wanted to just wonder if that interpretation of, sometimes Yahweh, does give you open heart surgery is
Well,
still
yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, look, he understands what you're capable of and what you can handle. Sometimes you will have a miraculous healing or removing of something, and sometimes he's going to run you through some things so you do the effort yourself, and he knows which things you need and which ones you can handle and how he's going to do it. If he's allowing you to go through it, you might not believe it, but he knows you can get there. Okay? He's only allowing you to go through that which you can go through. Now, maybe you can't go through it yourself, but he knows you've got help around you. Maybe he's trying to teach you to seek that help. Maybe he's trying to teach you to trust that help. Maybe he's trying to teach you whatever it is, but there is a way of escape. There is a process. So don't think that, well, I know I can't do it. Well, maybe you're not supposed to do it yourself. Maybe you're supposed to go get counsel and seek help in some way. But there is a way that he is providing if you just be open to that way. Okay, thank you. Okay? All right, on this side, where's the mic? Okay, who's on this side then? Okay, Wayne?
Okay, so now I'm in 119.
Yay, Wayne caught up to us. Good job, Wayne.
Reading this, where it says, when he's asking to please accept this, hold on, lost my spot. Please accept the voluntary offerings of my mouth, O Yahweh. We know everything before that. He's offering himself up to him, or he's saying his praise to the Father for his Torah. So which is the voluntary offering that he's offering us? And if it's his body, are we the voluntary offering now when we offer ourselves up to him? Or is our voluntary offering our praise to him every time we speak to him?
Look, I think it's very simply just the idea that everything he's saying without compulsion, without anybody forcing him. He says, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm saying what I'm saying absolutely because it's free and voluntary on my part. It's what I really feel. Because a lot of times people felt, and I felt, some of you were raised in families where everything was by compulsion. And that's why I've always had to work with some parents and say, look, your teenagers and your children, they may or may not be called the same time you are. They may not see it the same way you are. I said, and forcing them to do it does not necessarily help anything. However, the children need to respectfully be then counseled to say, but you need to do things out of respect for your parents. You need to do things because it's right there, whether you agree or not. And so that comes with counsel, and it also comes with leadership, okay? And of course, by raising your hand, which I just saw, that means that you are asking me then to counsel with you, so I appreciate that. We will counsel later, okay? So you got to be careful when you're trying to be a wise guy as a teenager. You might get the attention, and then I might have to counsel with you. So that attention was seen, okay? But just recognize that that's part of what's going on, is that this is voluntary. Okay? Now, if you want it, he's going to walk you through some pretty tough things. If you don't want it, he's going to let you just go off and do whatever you want. The effort to go forward brings also with it all of the chastisements that you need to compel you forward. Of course, if you don't want to go forward, you can avoid all that and just go the path you want and just, eat, drink, and be merry. Tomorrow you die, that's it. But then that's it. There isn't anything else. But if you want to be, as he says in the very beginning, blessed are those with integrity in the way, who walk in the teachings. Blessed are those who observe his witnesses, who seek him with all their heart. You want that stuff, you're going to have to voluntarily choose it. Excuse me. You have free will. You got to choose these things. Anybody else? Okay, let me run through some things real quick, and then we're going to end. I'm just going to look Psalm 119 and see what my eyes are drawn to and just kind of point out a few key bullet points for you, okay? Is that all right? All right, so I would have gone to right where I just went to because, very much important for you to see blessed or blessed are. He says that a lot of times in the Scripture, the idea of blessing being connected to Torah observance. We have always spoken about how Torah does three things. Number one, it brings blessing. If you want blessing, walk in his ways. He said, blessed are those who are perfect in the way, who walk in the teachings of Yahweh. Now, perfect, by the way, really, again, is that word tamim, which has the idea of having fullness of integrity. Walk this out in an integrity-filled way. Don't just walk it out in a lackadaisical way, and also don't beat yourself up because you can't be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Okay? What you have to have is the perfect desire to want to be perfect. Consistently want to be perfect, and that means that when you fall short, you say, I did it again, I fell short. Repent, get up, start again. Okay? Own it, fix it, release it, move on. Okay? And the way you own it is you go like David just said, Father, he says, Yahweh, I have sinned and sinned against you. Forgive my sin. I deserve whatever I'm getting. I own it. That's why he's a man after Yahweh's own heart. He did what he did, which was bad, but then he owned it when it was pointed out. You know what you did? Remember, the prophet had to say to him, you are that man who took that man's one little sheep. You are that man. And David was like, wow. I was so busy in my lust and in my flesh, I didn't even realize what I was doing. And then he owned it. And he fixed it. Well, he couldn't fix it by bringing back Uriah to life or whatever, but he did what he could to make an adjustment in his walk. Okay? Of course, then it says, blessed are those who observe his witnesses and who seek him with all heart. So are you walking? Are you seeking? These are all very active terms. Things that see, Christianity didn't tell you how to do so much. But you've got to walk, you've got to seek. Let's see. You have commanded us to guard. He says, oh, that my ways were established to guard. There's a lot of guarding here. Verse 8, I guard your laws. Verse 11, I've treasured up your word. Do you treasure the word, or is it frustrating? Is it a pain? Is it an inconvenience? Have you treasured up the word in your heart that I might not sin? Maybe the reason you sin is because you haven't treasured up the word. You've heard it. You've agreed to it casually, but have you treasured it into your heart? Let's see. Blessed are you, O Yahweh. Teach me your laws. With my lips I've recounted all the right rulings of your mouth. I've rejoiced in the way of your witnesses. I meditate on your orders. I delight myself in your laws. Open my eyes that I might see the wonders from your Torah. We have a song like that, right, Shira? Okay. All right. Could you imagine, can you actually get to the place where your being is crushed with longing for his right rulings at all times? As in verse 20. He says over and over again, teach me your laws, teach me your laws, teach me your laws. He said in lots of places. Remove from me, in verse 29, remove from me the way of falsehood. So this is what Paul talks about, by the way, the law of sin and death and the law of life. And so when you think he's picking on the Torah, no, he's picking on that fleshly law that's in your being that's ruling your life by default. He said, I've been walking the way of falsehood. He said, that hasn't worked. He says, remove from me that way of falsehood and favor me with your word, your Torah. I've chosen the way of truth. Make me, now this is the voluntary utterances. Make me understand, make me guard, make me walk in the path, incline my heart to your witnesses. He's openly saying, here I am, do what you need to do to get me where I need to get. If I'm not taking it serious enough, then I'm open to whatever chastisement you would give me in order to get me to do it the right way, to approach it the right way, to feel the right way about it. He's saying, make me understand that I might observe and guard it with all my heart. Make me walk in the path of your command, for I have delighted in it. Incline my heart to your witnesses and not my own gain. Turn away my eyes. He's saying, do what you need to do to cause me to desire to be serious enough to do these things. He's not saying just do it for me by fiat. Okay? Let's see if anything else just quickly pops up. More meditating, verse 48, it says, that I might lift up my hands to your commands, which I love, while I meditate on your laws. Do you actually meditate on them? Do you think about them? By meditate, do you think about how incredibly awesome those laws are and what it's done in your life and how it's changed the way you approach and do things and the beauty of the brilliance of his laws? Do you meditate? Do you think about them? Now, when he says, you are my portion, O Yahweh, we talked about that before, that means that should be enough. You are my portion. Do I need anything else? Do I need to seek my own? Do I value anything else? But you are my portion. Dayenu. That's all I need. That would have been enough. It's sufficient. I have sought your face with all my heart. I have thought upon my ways. Okay, so he's thinking about his ways and he's comparing them to Yahweh's ways. We need to do that. Let's see. Some of these things he just says over and over and over again. We just were reading, the Torah of your mouth is better to me than thousands of gold and silver pieces. So, by the way, when you're reading all this, how can you say, oh, that was an awful law that was brutal and terrible and mean to everybody, and we should want it to be done away with because it was the problem? Did David think the law was the problem? No. He thought it was the solution. Listen, if I had a choice of going with anything Paul said or David said, it's not a tough choice. By the way, I don't think that Paul said anything wrong. It's just been interpreted so badly. But if you're going to tell me that, and I often say this to Christians, well, Paul said blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, you've got two choices. Either Paul's in trouble because that goes against the Tanakh, or you don't understand Paul. Pick one. I don't care which one you pick. That's your choice. But pick one. What we know is Paul can't be saying what you're saying he's saying, because if he's really saying it, he's in trouble. When you're using him to do away with Torah, to do away with the law, to blame the Torah for all the problems and all the issues, then that's a problem. But that's not what he's saying. I don't believe he's saying it. But we have a Greek and translated into English and people with their biases doing bad jobs. We read that yesterday in Corinthians when we're talking about headship in chapter 10. Okay? Or chapter 11. Okay, in chapter 11. All right. Let's see. This is a very humble place to be. He says, verse 73, your hands have formed me. Make me understand that I might learn your commands. Even David, as much as he understood, says, I still don't fully get it. I'm open to learn more and understand more and learn more and understand more all the time. He says, verse 77, for your Torah is my delight. Let's see. Okay, verse 92. If your Torah had not been my delight, I would have perished. This is something that Candace basically was saying. If your Torah had not been my delight, I would have probably perished from all the things that I suffered. Let me never forget your orders, for by them you have given me life. How could you say, by them you've given me life, and then say, no, that's the terrible, awful stuff, and you shouldn't do it? And by the way, I want to word this correctly. I'm willing to get and discuss with a Christian person the idea that maybe the Torah would not be necessary anymore because of how confused they are. Not that I would agree for a second. I'm just saying that discussion we could start to have to whether or not it's necessary at this point. But that's not what they do anymore. They want to tell you that it's wrong, that you are actually in sin to do it. How can you get to that place? Can you read Psalm 119? How can what Yahweh said, and through David, his anointed, David, the one who was after his own heart, loved the law so much, how could he go through Deuteronomy and other places telling you, I want you to love me by showing me that you observe and obey and guard my commands, get to the place where somehow it's now wrong to do? And don't tell me they're not preaching that, because you know they are. They're so against what we're doing, which is providing a place where the spark can light up, where people can recognize that Torah is still relevant and still necessary and still valid, that they are going so against that they want to pre-plant in everybody's minds that this would be actually sin. That you are wrong and in sin and disappointing to Yah to do what he said. Just listen how absurd that sounds. You are in sin and wrong to do what he said. I'm sorry, my book says that Yahweh doesn't change. I did have a conversation with a pastor on a plane once who said that he didn't believe that. He said that he does. But he needs Yahweh to change to make sense of the twisted way they take the verses and stuff in the New Testament. But I read the verse that says, I am Yah, I am Yahweh, I change not. We're told that Yeshua is the same yesterday, today, and forever. There's no change. And so if he says something is right, it will always be right. Like I said, if they want to argue with me whether or not they still have to do it, okay, we can argue that argument. I'll never agree with them, but I'm saying we can have that argument because they can't see it. What I won't do is sit there and even entertain the idea that it's wrong. I looked them in the eye and said, you cannot possibly believe that what he says was right could ever actually be wrong. You need to go back and study that out and pray about that. How can you believe that he said it was right, now it's wrong? And on the other side of it, how can you now believe that something he said was wrong is okay? He said you can't eat pork. Oh, no, now I can eat bacon. Well, no, he never did that. He never changed on anything. And by the way, if he did, we would have nothing to hang on to. Because there would be no assurance that he would fulfill and finish the work he started in us. Because the work that got started didn't get started in Acts chapter 2. It got started in Genesis chapter 1. Actually, it got started in John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word. And that Word brought Torah into the world, into Bereshit 1, Genesis 1. And that's the order that holds everything together. Oh, no, that's the awful stuff that's burdensome. You ain't getting me to go back under that law. I always laugh and tell them, that's okay, you can't. They go, what? So, well, you can't go back under something you never did. How are you going to go back? See, we have a word that we all embrace, hopefully called teshuvah, which means I'm going to go back and get underneath that covering. I'm going to turn around and get straight. I've gone off left or right. I want to make sure that we have that. Of course, we have Psalm 119, 105, where you have the word as a lamp, okay, and it lights the path. But remember, a lamp is not like giant, bright headlights that go out, thousands of feet. We're talking about a lamp only shines so far in front of you. So some of you struggle because you can't see very far ahead, but that's okay. Just look where to put your next steps. He's going to give you the lamp to see the next few feet. It lights up your path just enough for you to keep walking. So after earlier he said, incline my heart, in verse 112 he says, I have inclined my heart to do your laws forever to the end. I've hated doubting thoughts, but I've loved your Torah. Do you have doubts about the Torah? Do you have doubts about Yahweh? Do you have doubts about Yeshua? I am your servant, make me understand, verse 125. That I might know your witnesses. Verse 142, your righteousness is forever, and your Torah is truth. There's your part of that 3-verse loop that I like to do. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Psalm 119, 142. Also verse 160, where it says, the sum of your word is truth, and all your right rulings are forever. And then you take that, and it says, the word, which is truth, puts on flesh in John 1:14. So don't argue with me. A lot of people will try. You're welcome to try, but you're never going to convince me that Yeshua is not the walking, talking, living Torah. He's the fullness of the embodiment of what it looks like. Amen. That's right. We should clap for that. Okay? I have hated falsehood and loathed it. Your Torah I have loved. Verse 163. Are we loathing the falsehood? Well, the law has been done away with. That is falsehood. Oh, well, in Mark chapter 7, Yeshua said you could eat whatever you want. That's a falsehood. You need to loathe falsehoods. By the way, that doesn't mean you loathe the people speaking the falsehoods. That doesn't mean you have to go on your Facebook page and bash and mock the people who are embracing the falsehoods. It's not their fault. You have to just loathe the falsehood so that you don't embrace the falsehood. Are we clear on that? Stop mocking and picking on and attacking all the people that just happen to not have had their eyes open like yours have been. And by the way, you're nobody special because of that. He chose it. He'll choose it for them when he's ready. In his timing, it's his plan. Just be happy he did it. Don't get all full of yourself because he chose you now. Most of you are struggling anyway. How do I know? Because you call me up and tell me you're struggling. So I know. Or you email me or whatever telling me you're struggling. Don't get all full of yourself thinking, because all you guys get out there bashing everybody and acting like you're all so smart. And when did you get so smart? Well, I don't know, yesterday almost. And so you're so all full of yourself because you've been doing this for 5 minutes. Just be happy he's done what he's done to you and keep moving forward. Great peace of those loving your Torah. If you don't have peace, maybe you're not loving his Torah enough. Maybe there's some issues you have with it still. That's good enough right there, I think. My eyes are just grabbing whatever they grab. I hope you enjoyed this. The rain is going to make it hard to hear anyway, because it's now really starting to come down. All right? So we can go ahead and close. Let's go ahead and start to wrap this up. I'm going to ask for, Frederick. Frederick is going to close us in prayer. So if you'll all rise, all the kids are here, so we don't have to go get them. Okay? So Frederick yesterday asked me if he could be added to the list, so he's now in the rotation, so that's good. Appreciate that, Frederick. Oh, the babies. Okay, go upstairs and get the parents with the babies. We'll wait 1 second for that. Somebody went to get them? Okay. We got some of the nursing moms and the little ones upstairs. So wait a minute. Wow, we're just wrapping this up just in time for all that rain. Okay, and then for all the rest of you that if you do want to come up here, we're going to go ahead and wave. At some point today, we also would like to take a group photo. We're going to see if we can figure out a way to do that. That will make the Rebbitzin real happy, score a few points for me. Okay, so please don't leave till we've gotten you in the group photo. We do this every Shavuot, try to take a group photo. Just waiting on the little ones to come down. All the little ones that are here and the older ones, again, a really good job reading Torah today. It is my prayer that that becomes a habit for you, that you would embrace and read Torah. They should be coming down here in a second. All right, here they come. All right, here come the little ones. Are there more coming? Amy, is that everybody? What? Oh, you were in the kitchen. Okay, we have any more coming from upstairs? Okay, Mark, is there anybody else upstairs still? Oh, Catherine's come down yet? Okay, and Catherine and Mary, okay. They're coming. Here they come. It's a big staircase and a long hallway. And they're both pregnant. Oh, here they come. All right. Is that everybody? We're waiting on Mary. Okay, Amy, Mary, and Lisa. Okay. By the time they get here, the rain will stop. Okay, thank you. All right. We're just stalling so that Frederick can think about what he's going to say. Which is either going to help or it's going to be just like when they stall for like the kicker before he's going to kick the field goal and he gets nervous, trying to freeze him up. So now he's going to do a great job. All right, now we're good? All right. Frederick, go ahead and close us.
Abba, Father, thank you for giving us these times to come apart, to gather together, to focus on you. Fill us with this blessing. Help us to carry us through to the next time we gather. Go with us. Lead us in your way. And help us to honor your Son, Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Excellent job. Thank you, Frederick. Okay. And by the way, if you're one of the men in this congregation who's here on a regular basis, you should be at some point telling me that you're ready to grab a microphone and either bless the children or close the service, because after all, that's part of our responsibility as men to be able to do these things. All right. Anybody who wants to come up on camera to wave Chag Sameach to those on the live stream, come on up here. Okay, so to be efficient and effective, we're going to also, after we wave goodbye, stay up here. We'll take the picture. Well, that's just to get that done. Might as well, everybody's already here and already up front. Okay? Okay, let's get everybody in. Watch for Eric and Jonathan. They're going to let you know if you need to move to be in the camera.
We'll fix everybody later.
Yeah, but the other side's the one that's itching. Oh, I'm getting a double now. Getting a mani-pedi. All right. Okay, if you're outside of Rabbi Tom, you're not on camera. Okay. Are we good? That's okay. We'll have to rearrange some people for the picture. All right, here we go. Now, we're not, remember, today is Chag Sameach, and then Shavuot Tov. And then we can tell them we love them. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Put them, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and try to organize this so that we can get everybody on camera. This is camera for a picture. Group photo. So if you want to be in the group photo, even though you didn't want to be on the waving thing, you might want to be in the group photo.